Call the meeting to order. Brenda, can you do a roll call?
Yes, sir, I sure can. Mr. Tuzin?
Here.
Mr. Hume?
Here.
Mr. Filak?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Here.
You have a full board, Mr. Chairman.
Right, and stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Approval of meeting agenda. Second. Can we, under third-party reports and presentations, I don't see United on here. Can we move that to C?
Amend my motion.
Approval.
Are we adding it?
Yeah, because United's here and I don't want to wait till the end of the meeting for that, since they're here.
Okay, right.
So, all in agreement?
Aye.
Okay, public comment period. Oh, do we have, I think there was a sign up sheet, was there, or did we use that? All right, we'll just take, we'll take everyone in order. Go ahead. 3 minutes, yes.
Gary, up to 1461 Resolute Street. I know on the agenda, there's an item called maintenance of co-op easement trees. Am I confused? Because I thought easement trees belong to CCDD.
Yes, you are confused. So there's a discussion to figure that out and work with Crow on that, because we've gone back and forth, and it's not just easement trees, but it's different areas of property and stuff. So there is a discussion on that. So thanks for that. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Oh.
Hi, Sandy Beckbinder. I'm in the condos in Artisan Park. Last Sunday, my husband and I were on the boardwalk and agreed with 15 kids on motorbikes going about 20 miles an hour, almost mowed us down. I have seen on back porch pictures of these same motorbikes in the streets, two abreast, on the sidewalks, two abreast, and there's no ruling for these kids. In other words, it's their sidewalk, it's their boardwalk, and they're in charge. I did call the principal of the high school. After 6 calls, he finally called me back. And
You're persistent.
well, I had to call the superintendent of schools before he would call me back. Anyway, and they must have really blasted him for not returning, because he was very rude, and then he calmed down. And he said, he has nothing to do with it, he also has 2 security people on the grounds. And another friend called, and the calls went to the principal. And at which point he said that he was going to discuss it with the students and that we're talking about their responsibility. But I spoke to Jack and he said that CCDD is in charge of the boardwalks.
Correct.
And I really think there should be a sign up, no motorized vehicles. I think there should be some sort of camera up there. And I think that before this becomes a problem with someone hurt, that we really should address it.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Walker, I live on Lake Evelyn. And the reason I'm here is because back in 2023, this is what Lake Evelyn used to look like. People used to come here, they would throw their lines in and catch fish in a second. Now, this is what Lake Evelyn looks like. There's no more fish. The turtles are
Can you
gone.
lift it up again real quick? I didn't see it.
Or can you just pass one?
Yeah. I
There's
just
no
wanna
more
make sure.
fish. So the turtles are gone, the alligators are gone, and the birds are pretty much disappearing. I've been calling about this since 2023. Last year, somebody told me it was global warming. Pretty funny, because none of that.
Yes, that's, yeah.
Yeah, so, I would like to know if there would be somebody that would be willing to take responsibility on the board for Lake Evelyn to help improve it and to get the wildlife back in it. I used to love seeing people fish there and, you know, the kids and everything, and now nobody comes to fish there anymore. It's really sad what's happening to it.
No, and I don't disagree on that. I know that we've got a couple plans. Obviously, we got a new aquatics company to go ahead and clean the pond. That's one thing. And then secondly, we're working with United for a plan to go ahead and clean up the areas around as well. So they'll talk a little bit tonight, but that's not gonna happen until February. But it's definitely something to look at, because I used to go there all the time, and it's degraded.
Yeah,
I can't say this.
It stinks at times now.
Well, it's the green stuff that's growing up there. That needs to be cleared.
And that's on the lake right now, the green algae.
Well, today, miracle of miracles, the lake is beautiful.
Right.
The day that I'm coming to speak to you, well, of course, it's just like when you.
It's
go
like going to the doctor. Yeah.
But if somebody would be willing to take on the responsibility for Lake Evelyn, I would be happy to help in any way that I can, if it's desired to have somebody from Lake Evelyn to help. I mean, I just offer my time or whatever. It needs better iteration. So thank you very much for listening to me.
No, it is something that will get addressed. There are some other areas also we got addressed similar.
And just so you know, we did actually put aerators in Lake Evelyn 2 years ago. It was one of the 8 or 9 ponds that we did. So those are new aerators in there, so they should be working. That doesn't, what our pond vendors have told us, was aeration doesn't necessarily cure algae. It helps balance the pond out, but you can still get algae with a fully functioning aerator. But as Tom said, I mean, we're on our 4th pond vendor in 2 years, 2.5 years.
Wow.
And that's been a discussion over the past couple of months. Is I think everybody's frustration, certainly I can speak for me, of, you know, is it a failure of the pond vendors? Is it a failure of us as a board not doing things? And I know that's part of what we've asked staff to look at is, you know, other than the regular treatment, are there other underlying issues? They've talked about all the 25 years of black and word schmutz and sludge and all that stuff, grass clippings and all that have just accumulated over time. That's obviously causing a lot of the issue as well. Is there something we need to do there? So there's
A lot of work to be done,
a lot of cost implications of work.
but we are gonna address it because it can't go on forever. It's just the bottom line.
I have been doing a little bit of research. I'm not as,
Right.
knowledgeable about this at all, but they tell me that it's an abundance of nutrients that are going into the.
That's the issue in almost all the ponds. That's
Which
just,
got to do with irrigation also.
That's the years of clippings, all the stuff.
Phosphorus.
And
Doesn't
I'll
help.
be interested to see what happens. And again, I offer my time,
Thank you for
so
coming.
much.
Robert Satan, 516 Long Meadow Street. A few months ago, we came and we had discussions about trees and maintenance and sidewalks and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Since then, obviously California's had a big problem with trees. When we were here in 2000, the wildfires that came through were really bad. I think it was like 300 million damaged. Has there been any more progress been put in place by you guys for a plan on tree maintenance in town?
Well, the tree, are you talking about like tree trimmings and tree investigation? Well, we already have a tree trimming plan in place. We don't trim preserve areas. That's been a policy of the board, but
Appreciate that. I live on Long Meadow Street. Okay, I'm mainly talking about Long Meadow Street, but it's generally the same everywhere. The trees between the road and the paths are enormous now.
right,
And we can't grow grass between the road and the sidewalks
Correct.
because of the roots and all of that.
sure.
And so, long term or medium term, has there been a plan worked on by you guys on how those trees are reduced in size? Usually the canopy is reduced by 25% rather than just the limbs dropping off, so the cars and trucks can go underneath them. Usually the canopies are reduced in other areas. My concern is that if we have a fire this year, like they've had in California, if one of the trees on Long Meadow Street catches on fire, they're all going to be on fire because they're interwoven. And that goes for most of the streets in celebration.
Correct.
And so,
But just to be clear, though, the situation in California and the type of brush in California and what happened on hills and stuff is not the same here, right? And there's always been a threat here with the preserve areas and everything else of having fires,
yeah,
whether we were here or not. Especially in the swamp areas, so,
and I appreciate that completely. It's more that we're 20 years, okay, I'm 20 years on from owning the house on Longmeadow Street. The trees are 20 years older, they're 20 years bigger.
Mhm.
And unless there's a limb that needs cutting off, there's no maintenance done on them. And I know I've talked to a few of our neighbours, and especially on Longmeadow Street, we're quite happy to all club in to maintain the trees to reduce them in size. But it was more, is there any plan with you guys for ongoing maintenance to reduce the canopy of the trees or not?
so right now, no, it's just regular trimmings for the height required by Osceola County.
Right.
That's
And
the
so
only
there is a
requirement that we
maximum
have.
height, is there?
There is, I don't know what the,
Well,
No, not of the canopy.
no, not the
Maximum
canopy,
height
the
of-
clearance.
on-
That's why.
clearance on-
Just the clearance,
Right,
it's
yeah.
primarily for, fire department and things like that.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. Those trees though, are they in a grow up park?
No,
No?
Not
not
those
the ones he's talking about, they're on the CC right away.
And I'll say, I mean, we
Go ahead.
yeah, we had a workshop, I think this comes before even when Tom and Dave were on the board. Did a workshop about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, where we talked about what do we do with 25-year-old trees, you know? And not to oversimplify this, Angel had reached out, urban planner, and had looked at other communities and all this. It was a very simple answer. Either the trees continue to do what the trees are doing and get bigger, or you cut down the tree and you start over and you start stump grinding all these out and you start over. And obviously there's pros and cons and all sorts of thoughts and opinions both
What
ways.
reduce, you know, I know
Right.
in England, they reduce the canopies, so you get a tree arborist come out and you say, we want to reduce the tree by 25, 30, 40%. It reduces the canopy and then it gives the tree the chance to grow back to that position, but the advice that you were given is just to take them out.
I mean, what we had in that specific workshop a few years ago was our focus, or at least my focus, has been more on the root systems and all the issues it's causing on sidewalks and all that. I mean, I think to Tom's point, I mean, when you're talking, I don't want to sound flippant about it, when you're talking about fires, I mean, something like Los Angeles, that's gonna happen. Whether we trim a tree back 25% or not, it's not gonna matter, it's gonna run through that.
With 100-mile-per-hour winds.
Right, the way that happens.
It'd be so hard for those trees to catch fire though with the green leaves, it really would.
Right. So, I mean, I just as
Probably
one guy,
impossible to
I
Catch them on fire.
I'm just looking at even the cost of that, and I have no idea what that would be for us to bring in somebody to top trim every one of them. I mean, we've got a couple thousand trees. I mean, I don't even know what the cost, and again, what's the benefit of that compared to?
It's around, I think. My neighbor had thinned one of the trees and it's around between 4,000 and 5,000 a tree. For that big, because of the size. And it takes a while to go ahead and do that. So that's the other thing we gotta balance.
Yeah, no, I appreciate there's a cost implication, but obviously concerned that I
Sure.
understand what you're saying, Ross, but when I was here in 2000 and the helicopters were swooping in alongside of 417 to pick up water.
Yep.
Because the side of the road was alight, you know, if that happens again, we're gonna all have problems, but.
Yeah.
Mentioned it now.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll close public comment period. There will be another one at the end of the meeting. Third party reports. Crow, is anyone from Crow? Online? No. Sheriff's Department,
Yes.
come on up.
You're the next contestant.
Yeah, I'll just have you stay.
Okay.
Now, I guess, the captain sent you,
Yes.
and if, anything to report, or is it, we're looking at our questions? I know, Jack, you had some stuff.
Well, that'd be for later though.
Okay, all right.
I don't really have anything to report. Nothing was conveyed by the captain. I can tell you just from my observations on the night shift supervisor for patrol division that works this area. We don't really have a lot of calls in celebration at night, on at least the 2 nights that I work. They're usually, if we do have a call, it's an isolated incident, noise complaint, a drunk person, domestic battery, something like that, so it's usually very isolated.
Okay.
Not anything, there's no trends or anything that I'm aware of that's going on in the neighborhoods.
The holidays are over.
Yeah, the holidays are over.
That'll do it.
So,
Two things I would ask for, and it's just one guy's opinion, and certainly defer the rest of the board on this as well. Parking enforcement, I'd asked about that a little while ago of cars and you get, I mean, a lot of it was in the holidays where you get people who are parking outside of the parking areas, particularly in the downtown area, even up and down Golf Park, they were parking up on the grass and easement and all that. We'll certainly get the details to focus on that, where we do the paid details. But if we can also get the on-duty guys, I mean, it's great that they're doing moving violations as well. But particularly in the downtown area, even some of the residential streets, I know Nash is one, and some of the others, even back in Artisan, people will park right up along the edge and you're trying to look around, you're coming out in Celebration Avenue, and it's not that fast, but fast enough you can't see around you, so we can get parking enforcement.
so I can give you a little information on how that works.
Sure.
So the patrol deputies that I supervise are pretty much a reactive force. So if somebody calls for a call for service, we respond to that call for service and deal with that. I don't have the resources that just generally patrol Celebration to look for parking violations because we're at knife fights and stabbings and shootings down the road a little ways. I know this is Celebration and this is a wonderful little paradise in the middle of a not so nice a place down the road. That's mainly where my deputies are focused. So I don't, the detailed deputies for sure can address those issues. And I can bring that back to the captain, make sure that that's brought up on the detailed sign up sheets and all the deputies know that they need to be enforcing that. Is it particularly downtown?
What I see is a lot of downtown, and then, like I said, even some of the artery streets that feed off of Celebration Avenue, just that they'll park. We had a call, was it on over in Lake Evelyn, yeah, right across from where like the baseball field is for the K-8 school.
Right.
One of the streets in there, people were talking, they were parking right up against the corner there, and you can't see around the corner.
Right.
Lake Evelyn really takes it in.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I'll make sure
Yeah.
it's downtown. Lake
Just
Evelyn.
if they happen to be passing by, and I realize the
Right.
priorities, but if they can keep that in the back of their mind, that'd be good. The other thing, and if you want to stick around for it or not, I don't know what Jack intends to bring up. I mean, we have been bringing up I know when I was chairman, I mean, we're going back a year and a half, almost 2 years now on electric bikes, electric scooters.
I think Jack's gonna cover that.
Yeah,
Let's go and ask him more.
well, and I will say that, I mean, this has been, I understand talking with the captain and even Major Hinderman when he was the captain, and I know our attorneys engaged. I realize there are gaps and seams in the law as to it's not clear and consistent for you guys. There is a growing problem of, and I will fully say publicly, my kid owns one of the bikes, but it's one of those things of, hey, there's certain speeds, there's certain places, but we have got a certain number of kids that are, running people off sidewalks, the lady running them off boardwalks and all that. There will be, I think, a growing conversation in the community that we own some of it because we own sidewalks and boardwalks, so we've got a little bit there. But generally, this is more a traffic or enforcement.
Yeah, we
issue.
can't enforce it.
It can't be us.
Right, absolutely.
That has not been solved, and that's been something we've been asking about for a while.
Okay. I can certainly bring that back to the captain and brainstorm with our legal staff on how to address it and they can come up with a strategy and.
I know Jan's reached out. Jan's, there been anything lately or?
Nothing new, no.
Okay.
Did you communicate with the sheriff's office?
Alex.
Alex
yeah.
Farr?
Anything else? Anything?
Is traffic enforcement in general vehicles being addressed by the detailed deputies sufficiently?
A little bit. A little bit. The issue we have is, I guess if there's a stop sign, it's just a free for all. On the major arteries through town. Nobody respects them.
Nobody stops them, including county vehicles, which I saw today roll through a stop sign.
Yes, they do run through them. I don't know what it is, but it's just, there's always near misses. And that's just, it's, when you
So the
go out,
problem is
you are
with
very
the mark
defensive.
unit, they're just gonna have to come up with a different strategy. Because obviously with the mark units, like I'm constantly going down here by the fire station and make a right towards the new section of Celebration. And everybody stops there, for an extent, but that's because I'm in a marked patrol car.
Fred Hinderman had
Yeah,
his-
if I was in
Durango.
a Ford F-150 or a car, maybe.
Well, I think some of them, I think if you're in a marked vehicle, they're going so fast, they will not have a chance to see you because they do
Right,
literally fly through the intersection. They're like, oh, there's nobody. You
And
know,
I know some of our deputies are more traffic oriented than others, so
Yeah.
I know, we have an SRO that works out here, Eric Cabot, and he probably stops 20 or 30.
Cabot, I
cars
see a lot of
shift.
name,
Yeah.
see his name a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, so. Okay,
All right.
Alright,
Thank you.
anything else?
That is it.
Okay. You need me to stay?
No, I think that's fine because I think we'll work with
We'll
Jack
match it up,
because he's their liaison to the sheriff's department, so we'll
Maybe,
arrange.
is there something that I can address? I've been at the sheriff's office for almost 40 years, so there's nothing that's going on at the sheriff's office that I don't. I'm not
No, but
aware
if I
of.
can get your email and stuff like that, do you have a business card?
Well, I mean, my regular job is patrol deputy, so if you have a specific issue, I can give you information tonight. But if we're gonna have
There'll be another meeting.
No, I'll be
Yeah.
meeting with Sheriff, Captain Molina eventually.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
sir. Have a good night.
I think, so next is United. Step on up.
Name's Joel Winternitz. I came on 2-3 weeks ago,
Yes,
replacing Tom's boots. And just getting familiar with the property. Me and Jose are working together every morning. He's got his report for me. In the recent weather, we've had some cold temperatures, which put a damper on the crabgrass, which is good to see. We've been pretty aggressive with our fertility program, so we are now starting half the property. So we're out every month, so the whole property will get seen. We've been pretty aggressive with some of the weed treatments. And got annuals going in tomorrow. So those will be replaced. The stump grind and all that will be completed tomorrow.
Is that North Village?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
yeah, because I mean, it's all the trees you're talking about,
Mhm.
yeah, from the hurricane,
Mhm.
okay. And that was the schedule originally to kind of get it done in January. Do replanting, targeting March. And there's, how many trees was there to replace? Ballpark.
I forget now, was it 70 maybe?
Yeah, I think it's like 68, 70, right around there.
So
Okay.
that's initiated now, it's already started?
The tree planting hasn't, but the getting it ready, getting rid of the stumps, all that stuff.
That's
The
what was
trees that we're gonna get cut completely down and stuff.
All right.
and
We're on
We
that.
had a note that we wanted the option of root barriers, we get a quote for that. Correct?
On existing trees,
On new trees.
No,
yeah, but
but
where an existing tree sat,
Yes.
we had tried that before.
Yeah.
We had, it was like,
It's an
No, we wanted
$8,000.
it, we asked last month for a quote. Has that not been provided?
I don't remember that. What I remember is
Not
we
right.
had tried that a year or two ago, it was like $6,000 or $7,000.
it's 6 or 7, it's 6 or 7,000 per
Because you
tree.
gotta cut out all those existing roots. It was
That was-
cost prohibitive.
I don't know if I need to
So
surface
if,
the minutes, but we asked, we wanted a proposal, so we knew exactly what it would be.
okay, so if
for
we-
root barrier.
all right, so we want a proposal, then we need to go ahead and get one. And we'll get the proposal for that, but I think it's gonna be 6 or at that time it was 6, 7.
Well, yes, but we were guessing, nobody had an actual.
So are
No,
you asking?
we had
for-
actually had it done out here. That's where we came up with that number, corner of Greenbrier.
It was Russ's staff that did it, it wasn't.
It wasn't our staff, no, we
Yeah.
had environment.
Oh, you had the prior, okay, Jupiter.
This is just an outstanding item on this topic I have from last month, and it said we were gonna get a proposal.
So are we asking for all 70 or so trees for a quote for all 70 to have root barriers? Is that the-
Well,
I'm fine asking. for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just,
It's
let's put
prohibitive number.
the parameters around it, so the ask, an estimate of root barriers on
Yeah.
70 trees.
Okay.
Okay.
That,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. we can work that, Sure.
Ballpark on what that typically runs per tree? I'd have to look at it first. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but I can get out there tomorrow and start putting some.
Yeah, listen, we realize that it's difficult and there's some,
It's technical.
yeah, there's some issues with regards to it, that the idea is that we didn't want to make the same mistake twice, and we wanted the option to have a cost associated with putting root barriers in there that would delay or even prevent for either future impacts to our sidewalks. Yeah.
So 70 trees at $7,000.
$7,000.
No, the initial estimate we had for the one tree we did.
This is a goal. We'll get, thanks for a quote. Appreciate it.
490,000.
I think it's the low.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. Okay.
No, I mean, other than that, we are bi-weekly mowing, so we're using the time of the cool weather, the grass isn't mowing, we're throwing an edge down, but we're detailing. So next week, we'll start cutting back all the grasses and lifting up all the oaks. And then next month will be, we've, a lot of leaf.
There's a lot of.
It's gonna be dropping.
One of the, and I brought this up to you before, was on the boulevard, there's a lot of watering that's going on. We haven't had a lot of rain
Mhm.
on and off, we had for the last week, but in general, it just seems like there's too much water.
Okay.
Because I know when they mow, as soon as tires hit that grass, it's mud, right? So I don't know, we have to reduce it or whatever, just kind of trying to balance it out
Yeah.
for the seasons.
We reduced it by a whole bunch.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we've cut back because of that rain we had last week. Really not a lot of water.
Yeah, it's really surprising, like how wet it is in there. It's like, wow. That's
Well,
a
and
lot
also
of
the dirt,
a lot of
so compact
trenches. Right.
that will help it all.
I do know when we discussed, in the beginning of February, you'll have like I don't want to say. It'll be a site-wide plan for where to go ahead. Is that gonna be on like every area?
In referencing to the sod.
Not just sod, but it was like in alleyways and side roads or whatever.
And
Anywhere that was CDD, if the area is fine, obviously we're not gonna do anything, but it was missing some bushes or some grass or whatever. There's a plan that's gonna come out. I think that's supposed to be presented to the board next month,
Okay,
but I think we'll have a preliminary one in the beginning of the month, just to make sure.
yeah, me and Jose will work together.
Okay.
Definitely.
Where are we at on, Janice, maybe a question for you on phase 2 of Island Village as far as landscaping coming over the point? Are we close to a point where we're gonna need a quote for them, or is that still a ways off, or do we know?
I'll leave that one
Phase
alone.
2A
Yeah,
is
I don't
not
think
gonna be that far off at all.
we haven't been requested yet to look at it.
Then they have, you guys will have meetings, is it every week, every other week,
I think that's every Thursday.
every Thursday? So it is every week,
10
so,
o'clock.
yeah, I don't think that's come up yet. But it's coming.
Yeah, and as soon as we get an application, we'll let you know so we can get a proposal, just because it usually takes a couple months from the time they request for Mark to get out there and us to get the documents and title and all that.
Okay.
Hey, Tom. Brett Perez, sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I apologize, I'm not there. We got flu A running through the house, but on phase 2A with the addendum, is it possible to get with Mattamy on landscape plans? We can start putting pricing based off of landscape plans that'll help you guys with budgeting process a heck of a lot sooner. So that maybe is a question for Russ, but see if we can get landscape plans for 2A, and then we can start plugging it into our estimating models.
And Brett, that's exactly what I was hitting. I mean, we're gonna be starting to hit budgeting cycles here in the next 30 or 45 days.
Yeah.
You guys can be responsive and not at a last minute scramble.
Yeah, and I mean, again, basing it off of landscape plans, it's typically, I'm just gonna be honest with you guys, it's a little bit higher because we don't physically see it in the ground. But we'll be pretty darn accurate, maybe a little bit higher than budget. So, or give you a little bit higher number, but then when it's actually in the ground, maybe able to adjust it down based on that, based off of what we see. It's just based off of plans. It's hard to be exact with the numbers. So yeah, if we can get those plans, will definitely help with the budgeting side of things.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how much good that is, because a lot of times those plans change. I mean, it gives you a baseline, but I wouldn't go by those because there's a lot of things that happen during planting.
So
Or the
how,
guys that you go by.
so how will we manage that in the past, let's say with
When phase 1 came on,
phase 1 or whatever.
they came over and said, we had a, pardon my French, holy shit moment of, we just took over the stuff. Somebody go get us a quote pretty quick.
Oh. So that's what we're trying to avoid.
Yes,
Good-
it would
good to
be
know.
nice not to do that again.
Okay, yeah, as soon as we get an application for what they
Okay.
want, Mark will start and I'll make sure to alert, Angel and Russ. Start looking for landscaping.
And I mean, if you need to do a walkthrough or so, I don't know if we can get back there and see
There's
that. but-
plenty of time, there's plenty of
Yeah.
time. By the time Mark walks through and gets a list. And
Okay.
Yeah, you just wanna-
it'll be fine.
You don't want to go too early because there's a lot that there's a big fix.
Yeah.
That'd be a waste of time.
You had a question
Oh,
before us, you were interrupted, yes.
Well, that's all right, Brett.
That's fine, that was good, that was important.
He needs to know also, I believe this is the time of year where we need to address the great myrtles. When is that scheduled?
February.
Yeah, the
We're
whole
gonna
month.
start on banging in February.
Russ, is
Huh?
Biro still doing this, the trees in front of the
Florida
homes?
Green's doing the crepe myrtle,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Florida Green.
Oh,
Who's, direct to Florida Green or through United?
Direct.
The CDD.
they handled that in Lake Evelyn and South Bend. Let the record be known that somebody has a crepe myrtle in front of their house. Just want the records to show that.
I wonder why I asked that question.
Well, you get neighbors that come to you, so.
Yes,
So I get that.
okay, February it is.
Anything else for United? Thank you very much.
I do have one other thing, sorry, just a quick alibi. Have you guys had-
Didn't I just say any other?
I know, I
This is
waited.
why you got banished to the end of the table.
Just keep moving over. We had problems in the past, and Brett, this may be for you as well, obviously with safety issues and all that. Have you guys had any safety incidents?
No, so we have a pretty monthly safety program where we have a safety internally, we have a safety inspector that comes in, checks out all our guys' equipment. There's surprise inspections, so if the guys are not wearing their PPE, they're either written up or terminated. So we're pretty strict with safety. There's a lot of, this is a heavy roadway, so we take it very seriously.
Standing in the street on Celebration Boulevard, got not once but twice the same person clipped, so let's not stand in the boulevard.
Yeah, we don't do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was it. Now I'm really done.
Consent agenda,
Move to approve it.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, business matters. First is second series bond issuance for Island Village. Jan, what do you have on that?
I don't have a microphone, I'm not sure, but this is, Mattamy wants to start their next two phases of houses. It'll be 323 units, so they've asked the CDD to begin the issuance, begin the process. It takes a couple months to put assessments on those homes, etc. Brett Seeley is here from MBS Capital Markets, who's been the bond underwriter
Mhm.
on the other issues and for, most recently for the other bond issue for Island Village. Brett can probably explain a little better the process, but what we're looking for today is basically initiating the process, an explanation of the timing and what happens. And one of the other items on here is a bond financing agreement, so any costs that are taken before the bonds are issued, Mattamy will cover, so this is not going to be a cost to any of the residents.
Okay, and just to clarify, so the bond is just for the new properties in phase 2
Yes.
in Island Village.
Right, two, phase 2B. Three, and it's 323 homes as
Okay.
of this afternoon. They can.
Is there another village after that? I mean, like a,
Maybe
okay,
four.
4.
There's one more.
Okay,
And we're still working as to whether or not that would be just one additional bond issuance or two series of bonds, but. As typical, as you all are very well aware, development is fluid, so the financing program is fluid as development evolves. But just for the benefit of the board, I know many of you have seen me. My name is Brett Seeley. I'm the managing partner with MBS Capital Markets. My firm has served, my firm and my predecessor firm have served as the investment banker to the Celebration and Enterprise CDDs since inception.
Mhm.
I'm second generation, used to see my dad here many years ago. And I have been working for the board for some time. As Jan has already summarized, Mattamy had approached us about getting started on the next series of bonds. The district has obviously contemplated this. It has completed the statutory processes necessary in order to be able to issue bonds. Both the bond validation process as well as the assessment process. So each time a new series of bonds is to be issued, we are doing a bit of rinsing and repeating. We've got to prepare bond documents. Really the first step in the process, and we somewhat trying to follow protocol of what we've done previously with the board, is let them know what's coming. Not bring documents to you at the very first board meeting. Let you know what's coming, give you an opportunity to pose some questions to myself. To representatives of Mattamy, we would look to the February board meeting in order to bring back what's known as the supplemental engineers report, which would describe the public infrastructure that may be funded with bond proceeds. As well, there would be a supplemental assessment report that would specifically identify the lots to be assessed from this particular series of bonds. Thereafter, in March, we would bring back what's known as a delegation resolution. And it would have forms of various standard bond documents attached to it. And then we would look to try to close in conjunction with the April meeting. We will prepare a detailed time schedule, weekly time schedule. We will work with staff in order to make sure that any documents that are coming before the board, that they're in the agenda packages, so that there's plenty of time to review them. In terms of the actions that we would be seeking today, as Jan mentioned, there's a bond financing, bond funding agreement that the board would we proposed that the board would enter into it with Mattamy, and this would ensure that the board would incur no costs as it relates to the issuance of the bonds.
Right.
In addition to that, we've got in our package, or in the agenda package, our supplemental investment banking agreement. It supplements the agreement we already have with the board. From a regulatory standpoint, we have to get engaged each time there is a separate bond issue. We're working under the same terms. We don't get paid unless there's a deal and unless we deliver. So there's no cost to the board by engaging us at this time. We'll get paid from bond proceeds to the extent we successfully deliver.
Yeah.
With that, I'm very happy to answer any questions, and I believe Jan will present what you may need motions on.
Yeah, it'll be pretty routine. We've negotiated the documents for the first phases, and, Mattamy is using the same counsel. We received title work today. They pretty much know we're gonna be asking for, and so they're on board. So we don't anticipate there being any surprises in the documents, but we will send everybody copies. We'll have a completion agreement where even if they run short on bond funds, Mattamy has to complete all the infrastructure. And a true up agreement, if they build a different number of lots, they will pay the difference to make sure the bonds are fully paid and there's no obligations on behalf of anybody else in the district.
Okay. Any questions from board members?
You have an estimate on how much the bond will be?
I don't, Brett.
Currently, the estimated principal amount of the bonds is about $6.5 million. That'll fluctuate based upon interest rates in and around the time that we go to price the bonds, but currently about $6.5 million, which will fund somewhere to the tune of high $5 million in construction proceeds, which will be, as Jan pointed out, just a fraction of the overall public infrastructure costs. But the bonds will be sized to maintain the same annual debt service assessment levels as those within the initial phases of Island Village.
That was the 2021
Yes,
series?
yes.
What would the structure be different than that? If any?
Same, we would structure bonds with a short duration of capitalized interest just to bridge the gap to get to the first tax bill in November. Bonds would be issued with a 30 level amortization or P&I payments thereafter. But it really is going to be a rinse and repeat. I hate to say it, but
What was the value of the first one?
Was it 8 something?
that sounds about right.
A long time ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, many months ago.
Well, things are a lot cheaper.
But it's 30 years, is that right?
Yeah.
30 years, correct. And current interest rate environment today would put the bond somewhere in the 5 5/8-ish range.
So Jan, for you, I will say, and I appreciate Mattamy's in the room, so I want to be frank. I was not impressed with how we got through the first phase of the first bond, or the first bond on phase 1, of how long it took us to get issues resolved afterwards. I mean, it was months and months of kicking and screaming and
And
arguing.
we're still dealing with the bridge lights, which I talked with Mattamy and
and the
told
bridge-
them that would come up at this meeting.
And I was gonna say that notwithstanding the bridge lights still haven't even been fixed. I'm gonna say 2 things at the same time, they're opposite directions. I don't want to slow down development, and I don't want the residents in phase 2 to be out and challenged. I also don't want to continue to have the same challenges we have had, particularly in turnover. I mean, there's real cost associated with, hey, Mark, go out again. Hey, Mark, go out again. Hey, Mark, go out again.
Well, not just Mark,
And
just
Russ-
everybody.
and-
instead.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Jan's time as well. I mean, and that's, I understand there's a cost to doing business, but there has been, I have felt, my one man's opinion is over the past 4 years. I appreciate you're coming in ahead of time, because everything we had gotten up till now was, here's a stack of documents, you have to sign them this meeting. And sometimes those documents didn't even get to us. After we had already posted the meeting, we had to have them, the last bond series came like 2 days before we were supposed to vote on them, and I realize there are things that sometimes we're constrained on, hey, you kind of don't have a choice, you need to do these things. I don't know from you or Mark or anybody else or bond counsel or whatever, I mean, do we need more enforcement mechanisms in the bond as far as, or do we just simply need to, as a board, choose to enforce these things and not release them?
The documents are pretty clear, and I did talk to Madame's council a couple of weeks ago when this first came up, saying, I know this is gonna be an issue, and they assured us that they were getting bids for the lights, they would fix them, and it wouldn't happen again. I
feel like they're doing that. I have to admit, I feel like if this wasn't on our agenda right now, we probably wouldn't have gotten that response that eagerly.
The other thing we can do is we have a process for turnover. And it's I don't know, 1,000 or it's a very small fee, is that the board could adopt a rule and impose fees for the actual turnover. You know, some boards have had a cost.
What used to cover time for.
Yes, for
So
engineers.
we
and
might want
staff.
to go and do that because the lights, we get, I would say, between 5 and 8 requests a week from different residents of Island Village. That stretch is a safety issue. It definitely is a safety issue
Okay.
because it's very dark. It just needs to be addressed. And I know they're working through this process, but
And
it took,
needs to speed up.
it seems like taking years to get.
We've
to
literally
this
been
point.
talking about this bridge for 2 years. We
Mhm.
could have
Oh.
blown the thing up and built it again
Right,
twice.
but the cost is gigantic, so.
Okay.
So
No, I-
whatever
I think
enforcement thing you
it
recommend.
makes sense to, like I say, we have another CDDs impose the cost on the developer who's turning it over to pay for, more than just the, title work and that sort of stuff, to actually pay for the cost of engineering and legal time in reviewing, and that does add an incentive to get it done more quickly.
What would that, I mean, is that a resolution you can bring to the next meeting? Is that simple? That
I
we,
think we adopted it as a policy, but if we're adding fees, it'd have to be a rule. So
Okay.
we would have time to bring it to the next meeting, have a
Okay.
rule before the bonds were issued. And I appreciate Brett letting us know early on, because we suspected there would be a lot of questions.
Well, and the goal
Time.
too, I think with something like this, it's not to penalize Matterning, that
It's
is
just,
the goal.
it's to
We
get it
just
done
need to
more
get it
quickly.
done. We just need to get it done.
And when we'll look at.
well,
the
it shouldn't be costing us, to your point.
Right,
Delays from them.
And,
if there
and,
are.
and we'll look in the documents at our acquisition agreement and all, and see if we can add anything that would, add a time frame that, from the time they submit an application, they'll get this done and come up with some timeframes to add some incentive to getting it done.
And in all fairness, if there's something we're not doing as a board, staff isn't doing or whatever, I would like to hear that from Mattamy. Hey, is there something we need to do better to make this process better? Because this first phase did not work as I thought it would.
It's never an easy process. I'll put it that way. We go through this a lot in CDDs, but this has been much longer than most. I'll admit that.
Okay.
So I'll pass that message on to them, and I know we've got Madamy here, so.
And I don't want to ignore it. I mean, Mattamy, please, I mean, it's a discussion. I want to make sure we're working together.
It's Chuck, though, not he wants. We've had some transition of different people working on the celebration project. So now I've transitioned to a role of land development director. So, mostly working with Dan Adams, trying to get stuff done, and I'm pushing, because I agree with you. Why are things taking longer to turn over to you all? And things aren't turned over in the proper manner. So Mark didn't have to have a 5-page punch list, we should be turning over. If you're responsible kind of buying a product, we should be giving you the product that you need, you want, and the residents.
And you guys want to get paid for this stuff. I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right the first time.
Right.
So I've challenged my folks and myself, working in Mark's shoes before and all that, we understand, it's staff's time, we can go around and around. And I appreciate your feedback on that. That helps me kind of guide my team.
Whoever you need to take that back to.
Yes, I can guide my team
Yeah.
to do a better job and make Mark's life a little bit easier.
Blame the guy who was doing that 5 years ago for you.
Yeah, Chuck's been in other CDDs, so it was a nice thing to hear that we came over here.
Yes.
That will be very.
I appreciate you doing that.
So, anything else?
Do we need to vote on anything tonight?
No, we
Yeah.
need to approve,
We have The supplemental underwriter agreement,
Yes.
Make a motion.
The same form as the other ones.
yes, it's, yeah.
Do I have a motion?
move to approve it.
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the next would be the bond financing funding agreement in substantially final form. We've gotten comments from Madame, I think we're final, but just in case there's any tiny tweaks, I'd like to have a little bit of leeway just in case.
Yeah, motion approved,
So move.
all in favor?
Aye.
I did,
Do we need a motion to ask Jan to do a draft for, can we just do that?
I
What?
think
That's
you,
for next
you
month.
directed me, that's fine.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
We'll
think
bring
you
it
need a
back up.
motion.
It's on my list, I'll follow.
Okay.
So I did
Don't
want
worry, Dave will.
I did want to add one more piece to this bond. It's nothing we got to vote on, but just a clarification for everybody. Since the beginning of celebration for a development district, that's how we get the infrastructure we have. For every single village. Starting with Main Village and then on to now Island Village. If you go to the CCD website, you will see the list of villages. You will also see the list of when the bonds expire. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the bonds are obviously added to the tax bill at the end of each year, but you can pay off the bond.
That's correct.
Right, so an
They
individual
pay
can
off.
say, if I have this, they can just pay it off and not
Correct.
go with that, so. So this isn't anything that is different than what we've done in celebration since the beginning. And there's nothing added to this bond, this is just
It's
Island Village.
And it's the same
Phase two.
infrastructure as in all the other villages.
Okay.
There's no changes to
Well, there
that.
was some confusion, I think, just in.
Well, there was,
Candidates about what the purpose of this was.
this is just
Yeah,
Island Village.
It's for the same infrastructure that are in all the other.
So
villages.
sidewalks, lights, alleys, just
Mhm.
that stuff.
Roads, yes.
After this, how many more villages are there? One, just one, and that's gonna be the last.
It's either one
Got
or two.
Phase 3 and phase 4.
This is phase three's in this.
So
Phase three.
we're
It
winding
depends, but
down,
winding
we're
down.
winding down and issuing bonds for.
There'll be one or two more bond issues for Island Village and that should. be
Okay,
it.
all right, I just
No
want,
more
I just wanted to
development
clarify
plan.
that. Okay. All right, and if anybody has any other questions, please come up and ask those questions at the end of the meeting. For that, all right, so moving on to,
Thank you, Brett.
Thanks, guys.
thank you. Osceola County responds to requests for parking curb painting issues, this is a fun one.
This is a fun one and you're looking at me, so I get to address.
Yes,
it.
yes, you
Yeah, I'm
are,
actually-
you are angel light today, I think,
Thank
but
you.
I do have
Yeah,
some
I
stuff to add to that
Can't
too.
ever
so.
live up to Angel, but,
No.
yeah, I had written a memo because we have been dealing with so many different items over the last 6 or 8 weeks that I thought it'd be helpful just to lay those out. This came up from the residents' request about Lake Evelyn, and so Tom wrote the requested email to the county. The county came back and said, oh gosh, we had a policy that was adopted by the county and the CCDD, years ago, and you're in charge of basically telling us what you need and what went on in that vein.
Upon further review,
Yes, upon further review, there is nothing in the record that this ever came before the board or the board approved it. I contacted the fire board's county liaison for many, many years, and he even recalled the meeting and said that, we recall the meeting, we talked about it, but the board absolutely did not want to take on any liability for traffic. We don't have traffic engineers, we would not do that, which is the same thing this board has said. And that's been very consistent. So we're not sure where this came from the county, but we do need to respond to them and tell them that this board did not, assuming that's still the board's position.
Well, I mean,
Did not take on any traffic.
my take on it is, we had, Jack, I think you got it about a year or two ago, where you got the summary from the PUD, which allows for us to do,
Yes,
to basically take, in layman's terms, take over any of
take over
the side
parking,
street
yes,
parking
take over
type
parking.
of stuff. The county has very much been under the impression that we have fully exercised that, and I think the problem is our board historically, we kind of stuck our toe in the water. We sort of said, we want to do some pieces of this, but not the whole thing. The county took it as, we took it all, and we fully exercised the PUD. And I've kind of watched as a lot of these issues pop up as one-offs, whether they're parking or road signs or whatever else. I think that's the impression. I mean, my thought looking at it is we need to do an all in or an all out, either revoke what was put in there and say, hey, we are not exercising the rights in the PUD and the roads are yours. We have nothing to do with parking. Or we go the other way and say we are fully exercising the PUD. And if we need to ask Mark and staff to get a traffic engineer as part of our responsibility, I feel like this half in, half out is.
But see, I don't recall the board ever agreeing on the parking, and I remember looking into that and the discussion came up and the board said, no, we don't want to exercise any part of this. And that could change.
And I'm not in disagreement that from the board's
Perspective.
perspective, and that came
Yeah.
on before I was on.
Yes,
And I know it triggered, it was, there was parking stuff on Nash Drive and some other stuff that
Mhm.
came like 2018 timeframe. But the county's impression is following that, we fully exercise the rights in the PUD and we've
yeah.
taken that over.
So. I know that you worked with the county on numerous issues to try to hold them accountable. For what residents pay in their taxes for. And we had a hit or miss, mostly misses, because they said, we're not gonna go ahead and do it. The last thing I wanna do is give them another opportunity for us to go ahead and pay for what we're already paying for. I just.
Brother, there is no disagreement.
And that's just, and the problem is that not only are we taking charge of that, but then we utilize staff to go ahead and maintain. Not the way the county maintains, but they paint once every 3 years and hope it's okay. We would have to paint every year. And that's a problem.
All right, let me phrase this differently, which is the fact, we just heard from the sheriff that
Mhm.
their capacity is just handling 911s. They don't have the ability outside of the details that we purchase. To go and do anything above answering phone calls.
The county would say probably the same thing about road maintenance.
Well, this is consistent with everything that the county does, all right, so we want a higher level of service, we're not gonna get it from the county. We're gonna have to pay for it.
This is no different than us paying $100,000 a year for a street sweeper or $250,000 a year. for
So
mosquito
if we
treatments.
want.
They're all county
if-
responsibilities.
If we want anything like this enforced, we have to pay for the details, which is what we're doing right now.
Well, we're not, it's not,
This
just-
isn't,
this isn't enforcing.
this isn't enforcement, this is a request, could you paint this per?
But, and that's what I'm
Yeah.
getting, that's
They
above and
need to-
beyond what the county is going to provide us for their
No,
services.
So. Go ahead.
Yeah, my impression is the county will consider it, but they'd sort of rather have the CDD take all the input, decide what we want, tell them, well, could you put this here, as opposed to residents going to them and requesting.
The
things, which is the
county's
appropriate
impression
way.
unofficially, I will say, and I can respect where they're coming from, is we are closer to the community than they are. So their impression is, particularly after the Nash Drive thing in 2018, is, hey, CDD, you go talk to the community, figure out what you want to do for parking, not parking, blah, blah, blah. Come back, give a unified message to us, the county, and we will go implement whatever you ask us to do that's within the confines of the PUD. That's,
But I
the
just don't
labels.
want, I want us to recommend, but they need to decide whether it's appropriate or not, because the CDD doesn't want the liability of, well, we didn't paint this one and you'd ask, and when you did do this one, CDD, you have the traffic.
So what is it?
Responsibility.
It's an expected rubber stamp, we say paint that, put a sign here, take that off.
Don't know, from the email, it appears they want us to tell them this is what they should do.
well, and I will tell you, the same thing came up on, we all saw it 4 or 5 months ago, and it was back on Nash Drive,
Mhm.
where somebody requested no parking on one side of the street for access for fire trucks. And the county hit me up and I responded back and to your point, I said, well, what's the county's recommendation? And they came back and said, well, what's your desire? And I said, well, what's the county's recommendation? And we did some
Yeah.
ping pong and they finally just dropped it because I said, guys, you have the traffic engineers, you have the fire department.
That's not us.
That's not us. And we never got an answer and nothing ever happened.
Yeah, it seems that we need to make clear that, we're happy to get public input and send to them.
send the
this
input,
is the
but-
request and this is
But they
why.
have to do it though.
But they need to
Well,
check to say it's.
that's the problem.
I
appropriate to
can't
do.
recall that.
Well, but see, here's where I'm at, okay? Nobody obeys traffic laws, they don't enforce it, right? And then all of a sudden, we're confused about the laws, so we can't enforce it, okay. Oh, we thought you guys were doing it and not us. I would like to live in that world, I would live in a really big ass house.
Yeah.
Okay, I just think that's a joke. I mean, they are responsible for all this stuff, they need to go ahead and do it. They got developments going up every which way around here, they are pulling in the money. They're not adding more deputies, they're not adding more services, but they're pulling in the money.
I mean, I will tell you, my limited experience, there are things with the county that, don't hold your breath, never gonna happen. More often than not, the road stuff, if we come up and say we want X or we don't want X. Usually and the only exception I've seen to that is the traffic light in front of the library. And that's a big ticket item, so I can kind of understand, hey, if they're gonna drop $300,000, they want to think about that first. Everything else that I have seen this board bring up in the 5 years I've been here that we've said, hey, residents would like and we support it, they've done it. So I mean, because I generally, I mean, zooming out from who's responsible for what, from Dave's comments last month about removing signs and no parking and all that. I mean, I drove around and was looking at You know, you've got. Some fire hydrants are boxed in yellow, others are not. Okay, is that enforceable or not? Just from a pure enforcement perspective, if a cop rolls by. And there's not a yellow box around the fire hydrant, can he take it in tow or not? You got the white tapering areas as you go down Celebration Avenue right through downtown. People park in the tapering areas.
Mhm.
Does that count as a parking violation or not? If it's not really there, should we take them out? You go down Celebration Avenue going down, you know, there are other areas
Well,
that.
the county put the striping on, so they can figure it out. I mean, it just. That's up to them to figure out.
But the problem is we're living with the confusion from the sheriff's department as to, I can't enforce, I can't, because I hear. When Dave was saying.
There's no confusion with, okay. There is no 100% zero confusion with the sheriff's department.
Can
They
they,
choose not to do it.
can they take it?
I don't think, I mean.
Can they take
when
it
we
for an
get to
area where
Jack's-
there's no sign?
When we get to the Jack section,
I,
they choose not to do it.
The issue is they put the stripes on the road, okay? We can't enforce anything on that road.
I know we can, but I'm saying from, as an
And
example,
here's
for
the-
yellow,
here's the-
yellow curb parking.
And you heard.
I've heard both, you have to have a sign and you don't have to have a sign.
And you heard
Which one is
that
it?
they offer us what is it, Class D service? They only responds to emergencies in this area here, or break-ins, whatever it is. The only traffic we get is what we pay for, and they're certainly not busy enough. I mean, they don't spend the time monitoring all those areas.
Yep.
You know, so if you want more enforcement, then we need to pay 100% enforcement.
But even that's not a guarantee we're gonna get more
Yeah,
enforcement,
and-
because
and
we're
I-
already paying and
and I-
we're not getting it.
But, all right,
I just don't see that the board should have to pass a resolution saying you should. Paint this part of the curb because the resident requested that. I mean, I think we should tell them this is a request, it makes sense, but come out and look and could you?
so let's do this. At this point, can Mr. and Mrs. Smith call the county and say, I want a big yellow stripe in front of my mailbox that says no parking?
Yes,
And the county will do it.
No.
the county will come to us and say, what
Okay,
do you
so
think?
you want?
perfect. All right.
Because of what the plan is in the PUD that they think we have to be in
All right,
agreement.
Well,
because
he's
if
not
we-
even referring to that. He's referring to a policy memo from.
But that policy
2021
memo
was-
ties to the language back in the PUD, that's what
The
generated.
policy menu doesn't exist, so
Exactly, it doesn't exist.
it's not there.
The county
There's
I
attorney
got
read
it,
it.
it
and
was a
said this-
draft that never got signed.
Yeah, and the county attorney agreed there was no binding. agreement.
Okay, so,
So we like this agreement, the arrangement the way it is.
Let's formalize it.
but they have to do the painting, they have to go ahead and do that. You see what I'm saying?
After we say it's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
I drove around with Henry Salinas about
Mhm.
5 years ago. Everywhere the board wanted yellow striping or curb and all that, nothing got done whatsoever.
I've sat in meetings where they say,
Mhm.
just let us know where we gotta paint the sidewalk, the
We
crosswalks,
actually
we'll do it.
drove, got out.
I'm still
checked
waiting.
the survey, he did
And
it on
there's,
the map,
there's two
so-
separate issues. One is the process to get there, whether or not we want to be involved in the process. There is a separate issue in execution, whether or not they do what they're supposed to do, but
Yeah,
to
we can
Dave's
only,
point, how involved do we want to be?
well, I think we can go ahead and say, we got this request, but that's fine. It's up to them whether they're gonna do it or not. It ultimately is up to the county. No matter what our
We want
suggestion,
to be apprised of it and tell them whether we approve or disapprove.
right, we're just gonna wait for that.
If we get it, I say that's fine to submit it, but I don't think we should stop residents from
Reaching out to the county.
reaching out to the county. And the county has the ultimate responsibility. I don't think things should have to be filtered through.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and the county doesn't tell the residents, from my understanding, hey, you have to go to the CDD first. When I've seen the request, it comes from the resident through the county will look and say, hey, does this, whatever they do internally, does this make sense, not make sense? And then they will forward it over to us and say, hey, CDD, what do you think?
You know, yes or no?
And our answers on our past ones have been, we have no opinion. You do what you think is appropriate for,
I don't like that
That's
now.
fair.
I,
Can we
brother,
get,
that
a-
was just the
Yeah.
decision of the board at the time. We didn't want to get into
so
that.
then what we're missing is that policy memorandum with the county in order to have that process by which all resident requests would first go through us for approval?
I think what you're saying is we would just have to sign what was drafted 5 years ago.
Yeah, and I don't think we have the legal authority to require our residents to come through us.
It wouldn't be. They
This-
would just
this
be
isn't-
forwarded.
This
They're
isn't
just
our, yeah, I mean, if
They're
residents
they're
choose to, that's
asking-
great, but I
They're
don't.
just asking an opinion.
Exactly, and I think we could give our opinion, but I don't think we should be recommending traffic improvements to their infrastructure. I mean, if it's safety, we can say, yes, we highly recommend this. but
Well,
don't
no,
think
I
We should
think-
say, yes, do this or don't do this.
If we abdicate that, we leave it to the county and the residents to then, without our involvement, to start painting things and putting signs here.
Well, nah, I've
That's-
never seen
yeah,
residents
signs are
go
different,
getting
yeah.
yellow paint, and sticking a sign on the ground.
No, but that's what they're gonna be asking
There
for. I
have
want a
been
one-way
curbs
sign here, I
that's
want a stop sign
painted,
here.
Not from us.
But what's gonna happen, like Evelyn, she brought it up, it's clear, we all agree it's a problem, we all know it's a problem.
Yeah, and
nothing's gonna get done.
we've asked if they would, and they said, well, our policy is such and such, and I was like, we've never seen this policy before.
Well, let's go with traffic laws, I believe, like, you have to stop at the stop sign, you have to yield the yield sign, don't you have to leave a certain amount of room between your
Yeah.
car and
Yeah.
stop sign?
Mhm.
That's traffic laws.
Sheriff's Department needs to enforce it, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we have a detail that we pay for, we tell them, hey, next week,
Well,
you're going to enforce this.
And that was my question before, is there additional signage or paintage or any other edge that needs to happen for them to enforce the stuff? I wouldn't think so, but
No.
I don't know.
So the item is parking curb painting, that's it. Or Osceola County responds to requests for parking curb painting. So we stick it to just the painting issues. Do, the question comes back, do we want to just tell the county? You handle the requests, you decide if you want to do this or not. Or should it come through us? And we say yay or nay, and for it, when they ask, what do you think? And we say, oh, go ahead and do it. And we do that. Those are the two options. That's what I'm hearing.
But
There's nothing else associated with that.
I agree with you that the change that would be, and where I hear Jan's concern is if we go with option 2, which honestly I support, I do agree. It's an authority in the PUD. I agree with the county, we're closer to the residents, we shouldn't be advocating that. My concern is her concern for liability. Now, when they come to us, we can't say, hey, county, do what you think. We need to say yes or no. And that's what they're looking for.
I think I'd rather say is our opinion that it should be done. And let the county act on it. That way you're not making a recommendation, you're not legally
we are
liable
making-
for it then.
Well, we are making.
No, I'm making an opinion. It's our
Yeah,
opinion.
we sent a request that basically said, a resident has requested this, although it's work trucks, it poses a dangerous situation, it appears this way, blah, blah, blah. Let us know, and they
You
came
can-
back
you
to
can-
say.
I think one of our primary duties is to uphold the aesthetics and the design of this town and to advocate that. So if we have the ability to,
Make it better.
yeah, and vet these requests so that we weigh in and are able to approve or disapprove things that will affect the appearance. of the
I think
town.
I agree with what you're saying, except I don't want to have the approval authority, because that creates liability. I
We
want
can't have
them,
both
I want
ways.
them to have I want them to know that, yes, we want this. But it's you have to vet it and make sure it's legal.
We're a governmental board. That's, I don't know that
Yeah,
we're
I
gonna get
mean,
that out.
I think either way, we're in an uncomfortable situation because we're recommending changes to another government's infrastructure. If we say, yes, paint this, it's very dangerous, they don't paint it and there's an accident, we've got, we've said we've done it. And vice versa, if we say don't do it and somebody has an accident, then it's like, oh, board, you said you didn't, and we're brought in the
Well,
lawsuit.
I guess the way I'm looking at it is that they ultimately have the responsibility.
Yeah.
They're the ones asking us,
Mhm.
right? And we say, looks good to us, right? But it ultimately falls down on their.
Yeah, we could say we don't have an objection to it or seems
We don't-
like it
yeah,
makes
we don't have
sense,
an
yeah,
objection to it if
but I
you
don't
wanna
wanna
do
say
that.
that we recommend this happen.
Right.
Or we don't.
I think
we
that's
object
how
to
you
it.
answer it.
But what if we do have an objection to a request?
Where's case law that says this is gonna be a problem? I mean, are we over, the risk of us doing something like Evelyn and somebody suing us?
Well, I just don't wanna see a policy where everything has to run through the CDD, and as he asked, do you need a resolution of your board to somebody asked about some signage as well, they came back with a signage request.
Well, and
But,
I'm also going to go to the practical side of this. What I don't want us to do is, now that we've advertised this, get into every meeting where John Q. Snuffy down the road wants it. I don't
That's
want
my
our
name.
board
Yeah.
meetings lined with this. That we can set a policy for staff to say, hey, if it's within these parameters, the board has no objection. If it's outside of these parameters, we object. Otherwise, it comes to, but I do not want to get into the. Just
No, I
I
don't want to be the final determination, and yeah, in terms of aesthetics, I completely get it.
Yeah, it makes total sense, the Lake Evelyn request makes sense. I mean,
how
it
is it
seems
not-
from a danger, from the explanation, but, I'm not a traffic engineer, so I can't say, board, you really should do this. It's
So,
sort of, so we said, okay. County, this is what we know about it, it appears to be a problem, residents are complaining.
And
Please do
again,
this.
this all got created because there was a new fire chief at Osceola County.
They wanted to put no
And
parking
he
on that.
wanted to have one-way streets and no parking on it. He was hitting all
That's
over
right.
Celebration. And it really was gonna disrupt a lot of homeowners.
But I will tell you, just being a guy who drove fire trucks for 17 years,
Right.
I will tell you, there are not an insignificant number of streets that I look at in this town and say, I'm glad I don't have to navigate that one.
Again, but like anything, because we're good at humans doing
Right.
this. Instead of just doing this, he went too far. He got to areas that, and so that's the uproar, just. He had it, I mean, like certain areas, they have the authority to do it, but then he started doing areas that. Okay, now we're getting out of control and that's what caused the backlash. So-
There's not,
Yeah,
I mean, MUTC
But
is
that's
pretty
what happened.
defined.
I mean,
You have
it's,
to have X amount of clearance. It's a yes or no question, that you either have it. or you don't.
Right.
I mean, it seems like if the county has a question and said, we're being asked to do this, what does the board think? I don't think there's a problem for you giving input as to what do you think? If a resident comes and says, I don't know where to go, can you help me get this to the county? That seems totally fine. But I don't know if we need a policy that every, particular road line or whatever that the county is considering has to run through this board. I mean, I
I
think.
kind of want it to.
That's the way the draft policy is written, and my recommendation is that the draft that's there. Coming out of tonight, I would either like us to say, yay, verily, we're signing that, or no, we're not.
Well, let's put it on the next agenda so we can review it between now.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not.
And that's
ready
fine.
to-
Let me ask you a question. You want to put a yellow line there. What's the law say about parking prior to a stop
Well,
sign?
we know,
You can't do
you
it.
can't do it. It applies to every
So
stop
is
sign.
that line gonna stop this guy from parking there?
That's my point with the Lake Evelyn one is,
Yeah.
as I understand it, the law is written, you can't park within, I think it's either 20 or 30 feet from a corner. Why do we even need to color that? If it's in.
Exactly,
if
but
we just
here's,
simply need
here's my
enforcement,
question
just
for you.
enforce
When's
it.
the last time you saw anybody get a parking ticket for parking close to a stop sign?
Never.
Well, according to
No,
the sergeant.
that guy right there.
Outside my house,
Outside your house?
on Long Meadow Street.
Good.
Darn, you had to prove me wrong, didn't you?
You're not allowed back here, sir.
Yeah.
But you need to talk to your neighbors. Somebody called it. Yeah, because nobody did it.
I'm just saying, so.
I agree with you, but at school time, especially around that, they had no notice of the signs, the yellow lines.
That's
and the
exactly
sheriff
it.
says Doing the road. And no one takes any.
We
notice.
have no enforcement in
No.
Celebration.
So
No,
I would motion that we table this. Let's bring it up next
Yeah.
meeting. Let's everybody take a look at it. But Jan, I would like to understand if your concern from a liability perspective is addressed. If we were to have a certified traffic engineer, I would like to understand what it would cost to give you, where we provide a certified traffic.
No, I don't think we
I don't-
wanna go that far.
I
I don't
don't
know if
know.
we
I'm
have, we
not
don't even
gonna
have the
spend money on
authority
this.
for traffic control.
Well,
I mean,
Yeah, don't worry about the traffic engineer, because I want to see this policy first.
Okay.
Figure out exactly what we're signing
Okay,
up
I'll
for.
pull the policy and the parking
Okay.
agreement.
And we'll put it on the
That's
next agenda.
Yeah.
So the dovetail of this is the sheriff, right? Which is
We're getting to that.
that next?
Yeah, where is it?
It's probably liaison reports or.
It is,
Yeah,
it is liaison
All right,
reports.
well, I mean, we can save it for that, or I can just say we tell
Let's do it now.
the sheriff what we want him to enforce.
All right, so you want to move Jack's liaison report up and discuss that now since we're on track.
Part of it. I'm fine with that.
Can I talk about any of this, Jan?
Go on, Jack.
Come on, Jack.
Hit us with your best shot.
Sure.
Where did I put it?
Uh,
What I did is I looked.
Here, you want this?
No, I have more. I looked through all the different motor vehicle laws that have pertained to scooters, bicycles, electric bikes and stuff like that. One of the things we had talked about is confusion. Okay, and Jan reads it a little bit differently than I do as far as what's allowed on the sidewalk. Basically, she says that only human power is allowed on the sidewalk. I agree with that. However, if you look at it's 316.2065, 655, which is electric bicycle, it says it's afforded the same privileges as a bicycle. Now, the problem being that there are three classes of electric bikes. You got class 1, 2, and 3. One is basically up to 20 miles an hour, and you have to pedal it in order to get the speed.
Mhm.
Class 2 is up to 20 miles an hour, and the motor takes it up there. And class 3 is up to 28 miles an hour, and which is illegal anyway. So the problem is that these
It's
bicycles are supposed to be stamped or
Class 3s are allowed in Florida.
at 28 miles an hour. Just these aren't speed limit though.
Well,
And you don't
The
want
bike
to.
itself is allowed, but yes.
It's
That's what you're saying,
allowed,
yeah.
and it's got, it have to be designated on the bike that it's class 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think we can even possibly look at a bike to see what class it is if it's on our sidewalk. I would prefer not to see the electric bikes on there. My issue is that 316.006, I believe it is, or 008. Says that 008.
What page are you on? I'm sorry.
It'd be page 4.
Okay.
The very bottom page, you'll see it highlighted in yellow. The county or municipality may enact an ordinance to permit, control, or regulate the operation of vehicles, golf carts, mopeds, motorized scooters, electric bicycles, and electric personal assisted mobility devices on sidewalks or sidewalk areas. So my feeling is that it comes down to us. We're not really a local government that we can do this, but we can go to the county and ask for an ordinance.
Well, the county already has a golf cart and a scooter ordinance.
Yes,
scooter-
but
the
this is
scooter
an
ordinance is for
exception.
commercials.
Yeah,
This would be an
that's for
exception
commercial.
though.
Mhm.
Okay,
Well, I don't know if that.
because
includes
the
us in
state
doing
law
No, we
says
haven't.
bicycles are allowed on the sidewalk. Okay, but it also says in 20655 that a local government can pass an ordinance or can
So
restrict the usage of it.
I'm sorry, so I thought I heard you say two separate things at the beginning. Are we saying it is already prohibited to have an electric bicycle on the sidewalk, or
I'm
it's
saying-
conflicting language?
I'm saying that Jan says it's not allowed because it's not human powered.
You're allowed to have it on, but it can only be human power like a bike.
And
You
I'm,
can ride the device, you just can't
You can't.
engage the electric motor.
Exactly.
well, and I'm arguing that 20655 says you're afforded the same ability to ride on an electric bike is afforded the same ability to ride on a sidewalk. Okay, I can't make the distinction whether it's a class 1 vehicle, class 2, or class 3.
And that's what the sheriff has always said. I can't tell if somebody's under.
So
power or
the
not
choice
under
would
power.
be to eliminate electric bicycles altogether on the sidewalk.
But I thought, didn't we discuss that and then I mean, is that the solution that the board wants?
I mean,
To
there's the,
have
well,
no-
there's the practical upshot of, is not even enforcing it.
Well, if you would pass an ordinance, if the county agreed to pass an ordinance that inside celebration, no motorized bicycles, with scooters too, motorized scooters or just
Scooters come
bicycles?
here in a different situation though.
Okay, motorized bicycles are not allowed on sidewalks and boardwalks, then the sheriff could enforce, whether they would, you can all figure that out.
I mean,
But-
my one guy's opinion, I'm gonna play the flip side of that, if we're gonna take. The school district has, and this is really around schools, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what's driving a lot of why
Right.
kids are
Yes.
riding them. Some of them are from leisure, but a lot of the kids are going to schools. The school district has determined neighborhood school, the primary issues around the K-8. I've talked to the other two principals and they're not having nearly the problem as the K-8. Now we have the issue of the school district has developed this as a community school where kids are gonna either to walk or bike. There's only like 4 streets in the town that get a school bus. Everybody else has to get to school via walking or biking or whatever else. Are we now taking all of our kids and putting them out in a street where we're all admitting there are already traffic problems?
That's the rub. What do we want to do?
So,
Right.
so, and I get that. But before electric bikes, 2 or 3 years ago. People rode their regular bikes to school, right? This is a new technology. And the law isn't very clear to go ahead and catch up. Okay. But I think we also have to think of not just the kids.
Pedestrians.
Okay, I mean, there's been a lot of people that have injured and had to go to hospitals. And these were hit and runs. Okay? I mean, that's kind of an unforgivable if you're gonna go and strike somebody down at those speeds. Obviously, again, that communication between parent and child didn't happen. And so that's the other part of it. And so.
We've got responsibility both
Yeah.
ways.
In a nirvana type of thing, if everyone, were respectful and didn't riot and stuff like that, we wouldn't be talking about it. But it is a situation, and one of the things too, and I know, Jack, you're looking at. Electric bikes and what we should do, but the issues we have are electric bikes. People ignoring traffic laws that are in cars. And I'm not just saying, there's so many videos of the bike going through. The car going through and bike lost. Right, dead child, that's what happens. And so. Unfortunately, they're not being instructed to follow the law. They're not. You can only ride 2 across, there's 5 across on the boulevard, you can't obstruct traffic. That's being happened. I mean, this stuff's gotta stop. I mean, the bottom line is, it just crossed the line too much. Do I want to go ahead and eliminate anyone driving? No, that's never the intent.
I don't even know that
But
we can.
but no, well, the sheriff can. Right? If there's an ordinance, the sheriff
There's
can.
Depends on the order.
So, and also keep in mind, there's history here, okay? Because we used to have the self-powered razors all over town, where people were racing all over the place in the street, whatever. They passed an ordinance, those disappeared overnight.
That was easier though, arguably, because those were all commercial. We weren't targeting the devices. The target was the company saying, you can't operate here in town.
You're talking about the lines. The rentable scooters, that's not what I'm talking about before that, you weren't hearing.
Razor is a smaller
There
thing.
was a smaller thing, people all had them and they eliminated it through the ordinance, and overnight, you couldn't.
What ordinance is there that you can't ride an electric scooter in town?
No, a Razor is the self-propelled scooter.
Yeah. There are kids riding self-propelled scooters all over the place now.
This particular type, the ordinance eliminated it.
Is it
The
a CDD
second one.
ordinance or a?
No, it's the county, that's nothing to do with CCDA.
No,
was
the
the-
county only, they prohibited the commercial use of those.
That's the only one I've
Yeah.
ever.
Well,
There's one
That was the,
before.
that was the ordinance 20, whatever it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
It can be done.
yeah, I mean, it
I have to
really
do
is.
it at comment period, if I can do that, because usually in workshop, we'll do the exchange.
here would be a couple recommendations of stuff I think we can immediately do. Number one, we do have control over our details. I would recommend for the next 30 days, we tell the sheriff's department, I don't want to see anything other than enforcement of, at least during school hours when kids are in and out, of moving violations of bike. And listen, I don't care whether or not the kids get tickets or not. I care whether or not one kid gets stopped because he's riding too fast, he's not riding safely, he doesn't have a helmet, any of the above. And make sure the sheriff's department knows, listen, I don't care about tickets, I care about you talking to that kid. Number two, my recommendation would be, and I'd be happy to do this, it's a very kind of informal start of the conversation. I think part of it needs to be with the schools. And how much are the schools willing to come into this? And K8 put out a note a couple days ago, which is great of them. How much are they able to say, for example, hey, if you're caught by the sheriff's department and violating it, you get 1 strike and then you can't ride your bike to school. That's not up to us. But I think if we can raise the concern to the school district and say, hey, guys, we need your help here in solving this problem.
Well, the K8 was willing to go ahead and ban bikes from schools. So they were really, I was at the meeting, so they were willing to go ahead and ban it. The problem was the sheriff's department there was inconsistencies in the law. And my problem with the sheriff's department is what inconsistencies? I've asked for it, I've never seen it. So unless I see it, they don't exist. That's the kind of world I live in.
Well, what they've told me is it becomes the question of, are they pedaling, are they not pedaling? Hey, is he really doing 28? Is he doing 27? What, is that a class 3 bike? Is it a class 2 bike? To Jack's point, you can't tell when you're passing it.
No, I agree, but
Do we need to have a vehicle doing 20 miles an hour on a sidewalk then?
no,
I don't disagree.
no.
But again, how do you enforce that?
I mean,
Sure.
Orange County Sheriff puts out a really nice little handout that says exactly what's allowed and what's not, which would be nice to get from Osceola County, so we could say, hey, and that says you can't operate motorcycle bicycles on the sidewalks or bike paths other than by.
And we asked, that was the question we raised a year ago, saying,
Yeah.
guys,
Can't you
Sheriff's
give
Department, I
us
need you to
something?
take all the different laws and things, I need you to distill this to a 1-page slick sheet where people can digest it.
Mhm.
And after 6 or 8 months of asking, they just said, no, we're not gonna do that.
Well, the problem goes back to state statutes. The state statute gives the local county or municipality the ability to choose what they want to do as far as the sidewalk.
Mhm.
Okay, Osceola County has done nothing, so everything's allowed.
Well, again, I think the statute says you can't ride motorized bikes with motors on sidewalks.
And I see the exception of 20655 says you're
It says
afforded the
ve-
same rights.
It says vehicles.
Well, regardless.
Yeah, either way.
I'm thinking from a speed perspective, bikes can go just as fast. Somebody on a bicycle can go just as fast as a motorized one.
Yeah.
Do 6,000 miles every year.
You can do 20 miles an hour on a bike and sidewalk. Is it different because it's
Yeah, do we
propelled with a
want
motor?
to, yeah,
And
the question is, do you want to prohibit it and have the kids on the roads? I mean, that's the,
I don't want that, don't like that either.
Well, that.
Around there now.
So maybe we need an education of what's scooters expected of them, what's speculative bikes.
I mean, listen, guys, I've thought, do we go as, and I don't know, we can do this or Crow does this, you have to have a bike registration. If you're gonna ride a bike on a CDD sidewalk, you have to register your bike with the CDD, and along with that comes a mandatory safety class. I mean, literally, I'm at that point of,
All right,
I-
so where's your,
I don't like it, but
where's your enforcement arm?
I got it, but what, I mean,
Right there, you'll just go around with a big stick.
Strong arm.
Yeah.
You know, right in the middle of the folks, and then that'll be it. The thing is that you go, you know, everyone loves, hates, you never do it on the back porch. When you see the pictures
Right.
and you see the stories, okay. Listen, I'm all for defending what people want to do in their life, okay? But if I'm gonna believe that, then I think somebody walking or, you know, being respectful of everybody. We need to kind of protect those people. Okay, because those people are getting fingers in their faces when they say, hey, be careful. These kids don't care. So that crossed the line for me, so I don't care about that. Now, and I want to be very clear, I'm not talking about all kids, because not all kids do that. But there's enough of them that will go ahead and which happened on Saturday, and they a lot of fingers going in the sheriff's face. That's,
and
you know, I mean.
and you've also got folks out there, and I know what video you're talking about. I don't believe everything I see on back porch.
No.
You've also got the driver of that car sitting there yelling at kids.
No, I
understand. I've got blame going in every direction.
I understand that. I didn't say that. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the reaction of some of these kids
Mhm.
to anyone telling them what to do, because they feel right now they're empowered to do whatever. When they purposely have 5 across blocking Celebration Avenue,
Mhm.
okay, and you got one guy who says, screw this, and mows one over. I mean, that ought to be a tragedy.
Right.
But it's not like we didn't see it coming. Right? I mean, there's some responsibility when you're on the road. You know, and unfortunately, I see a lot of kids living like their parents on the scooter. You know, going down Celebration Avenue with the phone, and actually the law says you have to have both hands on the handle.
I'm also gonna say the unpopular thing out loud is, we don't have a responsibility to fix all problems at all places at all times.
No,
The
well,
conversation here to me is
Yes.
reasonable,
Yes.
but I also wanna
understand
make
that.
sure we're not trying
Yeah,
to cure
I
the
mean,
world's ills.
Well,
I
we're
think-
not. We're talking about bikes in town. I mean, there's a lot of ills in the world, but that's this.
I mean, it sounds like enforcement is the key, because
Mhm.
at this point, I mean, enforcement would help the problems. I'm not sure that getting an ordinance right now,
Well,
unless
we
we
have
wanna prohibit everybody from the sidewalk.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
get
sure
it.
That's.
Yeah.
Enforcing what? Because I'm not hearing anything that they can enforce anything on our sidewalks.
No helmets. You
Is that
can-
it?
Well, is my understanding from the rule, because as I look at state law. You can get a other moving violations like a DUI, you can get on a bicycle, not even a motorized one, you can get on a regular bike. So if you can get that, can you get a reckless driving on a bike? If that's the point, now I don't need to worry about speed, now I just need to worry about a deputy going by and saying, that was a reckless movement, you just passed. The lady with her dog or whatever it was, and hey, I'm gonna either take it, whatever he decides to do with that.
I mean, Orange County will issue a moving violation if you operate a motorized vehicle, including a motorized bike on the sidewalk. Under 316-1995, that you can't do that. So, I mean, I think we need to, I can go back to the sheriff's council, but I think it's the details. I think your idea is a strong one. Is get the details around the schools and start stopping some of these kids.
So-
A parent getting, yeah.
So,
Cause even if we ban them from the sidewalks, it still comes back to a question of enforcement.
no, I get it. There's gonna be a balance here, and there's not gonna be a perfect answer.
Yeah.
Right? And we need to have a balance. Because then, I don't want a group of people, just everyone losing. But I'm trying to look at the safety.
We need to do
factor.
something.
Yeah,
We need to
they
do
can't,
something.
they can't block a street. That, I mean, that's clear.
So do we want to direct Jack to, number one, talk to the sheriff's office and get maybe an explanation of what they can and can't do, and then try to
We
balance that
tried
out?
that a year ago.
Yeah.
That's not gonna happen.
So do we
Unless
not
it's-
talk to the sheriff's department?
No, we just tell them what to enforce and when.
I think Jack is certainly appropriate, but I think also Jan in that conversation, because if it is truly, hey, you can enforce, I will call it unsafe movement or reckless driving on a sidewalk, however you want to call it. Hey, guys, from Jack's perspective as liaison, I want for the next 30 days, nothing but.
I want that message delivered by Jack.
Yeah.
I mean, I have that, get it formal, there's a
Okay.
meeting, management's there. This is what we have, and then we get that report, we get a report back,
Yeah.
what was discussed.
But I will tell you, Jack, just we tried this a year ago. And I requested the new captain to look at the schools and say, hey, can you please do, from all the conversations we've had, can you please do targeted enforcement around the schools? They came out, they brought on-duty guys, and I mean, it was the sting. It was like 2 weeks before school was over, and you know what they did? They wrote, I think he told me, over 40 tickets. Every single engagement they had was with somebody in a car.
Somebody what?
In a car.
Oh.
Because the deputies were looking at it going, driving around schools, you're on a cell phone, you're going too fast, whatever. They didn't, and I went and talked to the deputies as they were out there that day after school, and they're like, we don't even know what you're talking about with enforcement against bikes. So
My
somewhere
suggestion,
got lost, is that's what the point of this is.
so, and also my suggestion is when we say around the schools. Go 0.5 miles each direction, because that's where the craziness happens. Around the
Yeah,
schools,
when
it's
they get
packed.
close,
There's not a lot of room to do the wheelies.
Yeah.
But 0.5 miles down, yeah, that's an easy target. So,
But I think the details are not just the on-duty ones that we do in our roads. You're getting a lot of that is downtown. Guess when a lot of that happens? When we've got the 4-hour details on the weekends. Tell those guys,
I gotta tell you, the 4-hour details on the weekends, let's not talk about that. If you've looked at some of these walking details, they don't do anything.
so,
Nothing.
so we have the joint agreement. With CROA and Lexon and the CCDD to pay for a deputy downtown. So the Lexon property is private. Okay, they have signs that say no skateboarding or bikes around there. Mike Nunez went to the deputy and said, I kind of need you to enforce this for our property. Oh, yeah, you don't have enough signs. So if you go down, there is more signs. Okay, now this is the epitome of me bashing my head against the wall. Because he went back the third time and said, I need you to go ahead and enforce it. It's so hard to enforce that.
some of the confusion, and I'm not making an
Yeah.
excuse for it, some of the confusion becomes if you just get Joe Deputy who doesn't know who owns what in town. He doesn't realize that those roads and those sidewalks down there are private.
Okay, but here's the problem. Me, as somebody on the CCDD who's paying for part of that.
I agree.
I don't care.
No,
They have a service and agreement they have to fulfill. So is Crow getting the money's worth? I don't think so. Is Lexington getting the money worth? Well, obviously not. You're not supposed to block some of the sidewalks, ask them to clear it. There's 50 bikes there. They don't do anything. And this is a walking detail. So everybody's walking around. Oh, look at that. They're not doing anything. There's not one ticket in 3 months. How's that possible? I mean, you can just stand on the sidewalk and go, oh, that's not one ticket. So I don't know what they're doing.
well,
Maybe they're getting free ice cream at Gilman's.
and have we given them clear guidance?
Okay, so that's where I have a challenge, because we have laws. I don't think you give deputies clear guidance on enforcing laws. Right? I mean, it's like if something's happening, you write somebody up, oh, you know what? CCD didn't give you clear guidance.
There's not.
What-
But I think you can give them clear guidance that you want them to enforce and issue citations as opposed to just being a presence in downtown.
Well, but also getting him to recognize in any of the details who go down there, guys, here are the areas that are private, where to your point, Mike Nunez, who is paying a third into that, absolutely should have the authority to say, this is private property. I want this, I want that. That should be clear of who in Lexington has the authority to do that, and every one of those detail officers should absolutely know that.
The thing about, I don't want us to overreact too, because if we pull everybody on school detail and nobody's going around at night, we're gonna start all getting these, just got robbed, what's happening on all these, school details that we have, oh, they got pulled for the school, but now at night, it's a crime spree. So the pendulum will go back and forth, and we can't do that.
I mean,
I'm just looking at, we have 3 organizations paying for a deputy that's obviously not doing a job.
But I thought it was details. Whatever.
Well,
That
isn't
is-
that a deputy in the detail?
That is-
I don't know what
Deputy, it's a deputy.
That is a detail.
It is a deputy.
Let's clarify, details are what we pay for, okay?
As opposed to
The
on
deputies like Zone 21, that's what the county pays for. That's the one that's Sergeant Strecker was here about, was the Zone 21 stuff. He doesn't deal with the details.
the county's answer on on-duty deputies is gonna be, we react to 911 calls. And we are wildly understaffed, and good luck, and what he said, good luck getting us to do traffic enforcement on a
Right, you're
detail, or on, I'm sorry, on a non-duty.
All right, so what's the process here, which is, shouldn't we have a report that we look at in our agenda, and it shows what the last month's detail did. All right, was it hot? Did they get a lot of things, or there's nothing happening? And then at the meeting, we should be like, all right, nothing's happening, let's reallocate them somewhere else. And we as a board have to direct the detail for that upcoming month based on the reports that we get.
I will tell you, and this was in large part my fault, I will say, for the past few years, I kind of, God bless Cliff Akey, sat out there every week and said, I want a detail here, I want to do it in this truck. And guess what? The detail went here and we saw tickets, and I turned it kind of over to, hey, listen, I don't want to micromanage what stop sign or whatever else, but clearly that's where we're at. That level of engagement needs to happen. And I think for the downtown stuff, again, Tom, I agree with you. There are stuff when they initially came out there, they weren't even in the downtown area, and those were the downtown deputies, you know, and they're, I was, riding up and down Celebration
Oh, I
Boulevard.
can see downtown from this side of the street. down
For
there.
sure.
I mean,
So I think, Jack, I mean, if you can get a list, my recommendation would be, hey, between you, Croa, and Lexon, what are the 10 things we want to see? And guys, I want to see every report better align with one of these 10 things.
Okay,
That'd be my recommendation.
we'll do it.
And it's going back to a quota system, it's like.
No, it's
there's
not a
gotta
quota
be,
system. I mean, I don't care
Well,
how many
there's not-
times somebody writes something up.
But
you
the
know,
quota system
Just
is
show me
zero.
you've done something. Got one deputy here that's been here twice now. There's not one thing on that sheet,
Well, it's-
either sheet. Okay, everyone else is either given a verbal warning, written warnings, or some kind of citation. This one here, it's a freebie.
Yeah.
In fact, I got some that don't even sign the sheets.
I would not be shy about it. I mean, listen, Cliff was also great about knowing which deputies produced and which ones
I
didn't.
know which ones
And,
produced.
and he would call the captain or the sergeant and say, I don't want to do that.
If you're nice to me, I'll get you lips. If
So,
you're nice.
I don't
If you're
think
nice.
so.
We'll just operate.
Would you like to go with me, soon, Captain Molina?
Me?
Yeah.
No?
So, no, we all.
I'll go by myself.
Yeah, no, you can reach out to Angela or Carrie and have them go ahead and schedule that meeting.
Okay.
And,
Kevin Calvis.
yeah, and then we'll go from there. Yeah, it's gonna be,
Yeah, let
this
me-
isn't gonna happen overnight. There's gonna be multiple steps. But we need to start getting a handle on that. Otherwise, we're wasting money.
So the action is to direct Jack to set up a meeting with the sheriff,
No, captain.
captain,
West
very
Side-
good, all
West
right?
Side Captain.
Just so we get this properly
Documented.
documented, and he's going to coordinate with the captain. Detail for the next month, where they're gonna be and when they're gonna be there, and what they're going to.
Priority.
And I've got a question. I don't know, are our details, do they come out of the west side area? Or they come out all of Osceola County? Okay. We gotta see what we can do. about that.
And, well, it's true, because if you have somebody living like in St. Cloud or whatever, they're gonna only wanna work certain times, right? So that's.
That's true too, and
I'm gonna get it.
And the other thing I would throw in there, Jack, if you can do, I mean, they did a good job a few years ago, and they targeted the wrong stuff. Not bringing on-duty guys in here, I realize they can't do that all the time. But to be able to do a targeted, they get their traffic unit of 6 or 8 guys on motorcycles. Hey, once or twice a year, we should be able to see around the schools and other stuff. a
I
little
know
bit of
they've
blitz.
got a crosswalk detail, and I saw that a couple of months ago. Unfortunately, they're monitoring the wrong crosswalk. But anyway, I want to go back to one thing. Last time we were here, Russ, and this goes back to Sandy's statement. Didn't we agree to put signs up at the boardwalks for no motorized vehicles on there?
No.
No, we didn't.
Not gonna be anything up, because we already got enough signs.
Okay,
Well, and the signs are there, but the enforcement isn't.
well, what if we just put the signs up?
People drive by the signs.
I know, but somebody needs. No, that's too expensive. We gotta
we-
run electricity down there then.
Well, that is something we've talked about.
When I brought this up last year, we tabled it because we just didn't have it in the budget, but part of the layout was monitoring boardwalks. So I mean, that's something
Right.
I would like to bring back up into the budget. But again, a camera's all it's gonna do.
Cameras just,
It's gonna show a kid that's riding by and you're gonna not know who
Yeah,
the kid
it's
was.
not-
It's
yeah.
not gonna tell you.
There's no license plate to
Right.
cross check.
Yeah.
That should have been.
And-
So is there gonna be a sign or there isn't gonna be a sign?
well,
No.
right now, there isn't gonna be a sign. I think this needs to get enforced. I think we need to go ahead and clear this up. Because we can put a sign up, but the problem is
All right, how are we gonna tell?
There is,
I'd rather have enforcement than no sign.
I'd rather have enforcement because that is how,
All
that's how
right,
you're gonna
that's
get
how
this
how are we
done.
gonna get it out to the community that no motorized vehicles should be on the boardwalk then?
But that's not a policy.
That's not a policy.
Should it?
If we vote on it.
Okay, let me be very clear, because Russ, do we have motorized vehicles on boardwalk? Is something that's allowed? I know people ride bikes as they're going back. and forth.
The CDD,
Yes.
yeah, we put the mules on there when we're pressure washing and stuff.
No, I'm not talking about maintenance, I'm talking about vehicles.
Have you seen
If-
anybody
if-
out?
I have not.
There is no rule.
No, there's no rule prohibiting it, but it's ours.
Right.
It's something we can
We can't have.
legislate.
Yes. And
I'm sure there are though, probably to get to the high school and back.
I guarantee you,
I'm just not there.
Yeah.
If we wanna enforce it, we'd have to go through the county and get an ordinance if we want the.
It,
police
it,
to
it's just, I
enforce,
mean,
the sheriff
you
to
know,
enforce.
people are, number one, they move
Yeah.
in the vehicles, people aren't going 25, they're
Yeah, it's all
they're
crazy.
flying, right? They modified the
I'm
bike,
not on the boardwalk.
huh?
Not on the boardwalk. You can't go that fast.
Really? What you want to bet?
Too many turns.
do 25 on the Artisan Boardwalk,
You're gonna die.
you're gonna land up 30 feet over the railing.
You're not gonna, might have tried that.
They're not helping. I just think that we do need to do something, because I mean, I don't want to put a sign up just because to do something,
Right. I wanna make sure it's getting fixed.
but there needs to be some restrictions on that.
I mean,
Because
the
again-
practical piece too, I would like to see the sheriffs do it on the sidewalks first, because just from a practical standpoint. A deputy riding in a car, he can see it coming on the sidewalk and he can choose to do something about it.
Yeah.
In order for him to enforce that on the boardwalks, guess what he needs?
He needs to be on the boardwalk.
He needs to
Yeah.
get
He's
out
not
of his
gonna be on
car.
the boardwalk.
That ain't gonna happen. Unless we tell the details, I want you to go stand on this boardwalk, and is that really the best use of our dollars?
If there's strict enforcement on the roadways, we'll get out fast.
All right.
How should anybody know no electric vehicles on the boardwalk if there's no sign?
That's not the policy. It's not the policy.
It's currently not the policy.
Not the what?
It's currently not the policy allowed. It's allowed. And you can have somebody riding, how fast do you ride? You ride fast, right?
On my.
Well, okay, all right,
Where, I have no electronics.
right, and you could have somebody riding fast. The problem is respect. You just have to have respect for everyone around you.
We're getting some respect.
Okay, so you have your direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
7C.
7C, sign removal and criteria for removal. So I do apologize to the board. I did promise that I was gonna have something for this meeting, and I don't. Too bad. So I've been very busy. So I am gonna have it for the next meeting. I will submit it next week. And I'll talk to Angel about that, because I know this is Dave's pet project.
I did this one.
Are we talking about these signs or are
Yeah.
we talking about?
These-
Okay.
Well, no, it's not, okay, not these signs. Let me speak, that's a Crow thing, that's a Crow thing. It's the signs throughout town that we have just
Did we talk
duplicates.
about last month?
Correct, so
Okay.
that is what I'm gonna have. I'll have Angel look through it, and then she work for
I don't even
Dave.
remember what it was you.
So we're developing a criteria, instead of saying, let's just get rid of all these signs, right? Really start breaking down the signs. Are they used, are they county, are they whatever, and just putting some sort of semblance of order on what we want to go ahead and do. Because right now, there's too much.
Are we
And
just looking at the downtown area? I know that was what Dick.
no, just everywhere, because it is mostly the downtown area. It's mostly the original villages
Mhm.
that have a lot of signs, because some of them are signs Disney put up, which they're, don't park on the street. And yes, you can park on the street. It's the county road, right? And it's unenforceable because there's no county tag on it, right? It's a nonsense sign. So, and it was there because it just, they just put together those townhouses, there were showrooms or whatever.
So,
That's why that's.
yeah, my definition of nonsense might not be his definition of nonsense, so we're
Correct.
trying to figure out what the criteria is to define nonsense.
I love to see everybody's nonsense at the next meeting.
You'll see it. So
I'll give you
That's-
that nonsense next week.
So that is that line, so that is my deliverable. To Angel next week, and then that'll be part of the board packet. Appointment of liaisons,
If we are gonna, I'm sorry, if we are gonna remove talk about traffic, it's like no parking, I think was part of what he was talking about as well. I would like to understand as part, I would have to answer now. Is there a requirement for signage for no parking along a street side where a car is painted yellow?
No,
No,
I've been told yes before, so I just want to make
I
sure.
think it was in that letter that,
it's
Very
sorry,
well
I
and
looked
sent
it up
back.
in the driving code thing.
Okay. It just has to be yellow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if it's yellow and there's no sign and deputies there, he'll make up the rule that you need the sign, so he doesn't have to write the ticket. That's how
phase
it
two.
works. Okay, appoint liaisons. This is on here because Shell wasn't at the meeting when we divvied up liaisons and wanted to know if Shell wanted to be involved in anything.
That was convenient of showing.
Well, now he is the liaison for everyone. right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that's,
you're so lucky.
Do we have, Dave, I mean, you had like
lot of
80%, like you had Mattamy, you had other stuff, is there?
the only thing, well, but he didn't have county. I don't think we have anybody with county.
In my opinion, is I don't know that the county is really necessarily good, because we touched the county.
I
from
understand
different
that. I'm just
perspectives,
trying to,
yeah.
I'm trying to come up with ideas here, if there's anything that Shell.
Well, I'm kind of doing that too with the traffic
Yeah.
guy.
Yes,
they-
Mr. Chairman, in the minutes, we have David Hume for Island Village, Mattamy Homes, Master Planning, Osceola County, the Celebration Company. That's,
All right, I got it all covered.
You do have the county.
We're done
We
here.
do have the county.
They just took over the world and once.
I just know people.
It's not a good thing.
I just do a
Yeah.
good job.
Well, if you know so many people, haven't been to damn signs. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know, Shell, there's an area that you wanted to work in, whether it's within, it could be within celebration, but you don't have to decide now, but I just wanted to have, it's on the.
Well, Brenda, can you go through the other ones? Like,
I
what
sure
is-
can.
Sure.
So, Greg Filak has Croa. Greg has Croa. Tom Tucson has maintenance, management, and the community connections that Cassandra Starks used to do.
Yes,
David, you have Island Village, Mattamy Homes, Master Planning, Osceola County, the Celebration Company. And then Jack has the sheriff, and he is the chairman of the audit committee.
Can I make a recommendation, just by virtue of the Crow one? Canoa naturally aligns with that. We don't have a lot with Canoa, but to the extent that we do,
I was gonna say that too.
if.
and they're interested for,
It's all the same management, so it kind of makes sense if whoever's got Croa has that. The other one I was gonna say is Tom for yours. Read off Tom's again. I'm sorry. I had a good idea and then I lost it.
Sure, he has management, maintenance, and
Maintenance.
the community connections.
Would community connections make sense for me to take? Just because again, that kind of ties to Croa, well, Shell, or whatever. It ties
He's
to.
trying to edge in, I mean, notice that, Shell, we're trying to get something for you, he's trying to edge in. I think Canoa,
That's foundation though.
I think Canoa would make sense.
Okay.
And then I have community connections, but I only went to one. Let's wait for the next one and let's see what's going on, and then we maybe transfer that over. Cause I don't want to look like it was there once and I decided. to take it.
Were there any previous liaisons that are currently unfilled?
The only thing we've had in the past, and this was 2 or 3 years ago, Paul Collins had the West 192.
Yeah.
What's
All
the
right,
word?
Chris.
Development.
Yeah, it's not a district, but it's like a consortium or
It's
whatever.
the beautification deal. And then Cassandra Starks used to always also work with Commissioner Peggy Chowdhury.
Yeah, but again, that got weird because it depended on the topic, right? If it was a safety
Correct.
thing, you would go to Jack, whatever else, so.
And you're doing the schools. I mean, the official liaison to the county schools and superintendent and.
You're doing the same district.
Well, no, he's got the county.
He's more.
I've been engaged with all the principals just because I'm.
You
engaged
got
with
school
them.
districts for math.
For master
Master
plan.
For master plan.
In that one, yeah, purpose, a specific purpose.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we
Um,
did not put school district on this list. I don't have it on the list, what you guys talked about last week.
I mean, the only other one I would look at is there, like, from a business perspective, is West 192, or even, is there a reason for us to engage with Osceola Chamber? we've got businesses in town, and I feel like we don't really engage as CDD, we kind of think from a resident perspective, we don't really think from a business perspective.
Well, I think that
That's
falls under,
Canoa.
that's Canoa.
That's
They're the
Canoa's.
ones that are trying to organize and be more of a force.
And
And
I'll
really,
have-
I think Canoa, we go through.
Okay,
them.
then I'll do that. Okay, sorry, Shell, I was trying.
So Shell, what are you doing? You're doing Canoa.
I thought I was,
You're doing Canoa.
because it's tied to Crow.
Shell's still not doing anything yet.
No, he's not, he's just writing a lot.
Yeah, he's keeping his head down and just pretending.
All right, so Shell, if you come up with something, let us know.
Good job, Shell.
You get the
job.
next thing that comes up that nobody wants.
Yeah, exactly, thanks.
It's coming.
No guy gets,
All right, so maintenance of Crow easement trees. All right, I guess this one's mine. So, I spoke with Angel on this, and Russ. We have a lot of issues with Crow. So and you gotta break it down, it's not just easement trees. So part of the problem is, Island Village is the example that started all this after the hurricane. The trees came down in front of their, in front of the pool area, right? So traditionally, houses work, back in the days of CCMC. Pat Wasson met with Brian Smith, and they went through the entire town to figure out, because there was always a lot of confusion back then. And is it CROA? Is it CCD?
Pat Wasson was CCMC.
Yes, and
Brian
Brian
Smith.
Smith was Infomark. Okay. And so they came to agreement that the areas around a park, including the trees, were part of the park. Okay. So, and this is, and to the extent that if a tree needed trimming, it was CROA that did the trimming. If a sidewalk needed replaced, CROA replaced the sidewalk. That was the agreement. And I spoke to many.
Even the external sidewalks or just the ones going through the? Crow
The
park?
external side, the area around the park, and that, the whole area was considered a park. Okay, I spoke to previous Crow board members. And yes, I spoke to myself. And this is, we've always budgeted, we always planned it that way, and they were shocked, and like, well, what changed? Well, what changed was, Grand Manners has been here for 3 years. And pretty much the hurricane, Lauren went up and said, oh, you own that property, you take care of that, you take care of that. There was no discussion, there was no anything. Okay, but it also comes back to, and that's the tree portion. Okay, but it also comes back to when tickets come in, right? There's arbitrarily say, oh, that's yours. No, that's your irrigation system. It's on our land, it's your irrigation. We're not fixing your irrigation system. Yeah, there's overlaps in the community. And just because we might own the land or it, on the map behind you, doesn't necessarily mean we always maintain it. It's not that easy with the way Disney designed Celebration. Okay, but that's all she's going by. And then the third piece to this is, it doesn't matter what ticket comes in. It really goes to CCD. It's up to the CCD to go ahead and route it now. So, Spring Lake, for example, we don't own a lot of stuff at Spring Lake, very, very little. The medians are actually CROA. They don't, apparently Grand Manners doesn't understand that it's the service area and it's them. So a lot of stuff that goes into Spring Lake comes back.
The only thing that we own in Spring Lake is the 8-foot sidewalk in the back around the lake
Right,
to the lake, and that is it.
that's it.
We get tickets every day for.
And
inside Spring Lake.
the thing is, residents are losing here. Because they're the ones getting jerked around. Right? Who said, she said, what, and we're like, no, we look at it, it's you. So what we need is a Angel and Jan, I think you're also pulling some of the
Yeah,
maps and
I
stuff.
looked at the CCNR as the overall ones,
We-
and there's nothing about CROA.
There is no formal agreement, okay, so we're gonna need a meeting to kind of like hash this out. It might be that, okay, I guess we're now gonna have to go ahead and maintain it. But,
So I'm sorry, just to be clear, the CCNRs. Every owner's property right now, Crow aside,
Mhm.
says thou shalt maintain things in CDD easements.
Yes,
Do the Crow CCNR say the same thing, or do they not say anything?
they don't say anything about CROA property, they talk about lots, the lot owners.
Well, can they be considered a lot owner?
They are a lot owner.
No, they talk about lots with homes. It was
So-
pretty specific that parks were not included anywhere.
So in one particular area, in South Village, in the Heritage Hall. If you look in the back, there's that soccer field, that big field, and there's that preserve area around. That has always been considered growing. Always considered growing. In fact,
There's no vagary, it's.
no, you can see that yellow, yellow spot right there.
Yeah.
They have requested us to go ahead and say, hey, since that's a preserve area, can you go ahead and replace all the grass all the way around? Like, it's not our property. It's gotten to the point of absurd. So we do have to go ahead and settle these. So I wanted to bring this up to let the board know that this is where we're at. And the next step is Janice pulled some stuff together. And it's probably gonna be Angela and myself meeting with Lauren and Don to. figure this
And then put
I
together
could-
some kind of maintenance agreement that we all know what we're taking care of.
We're gonna have to have it in writing.
I mean, I had already brought it up just because of the last meeting, we talked about it, and I sent an email to Don. This was the December meeting? Yeah, the December meeting, I sent it to Don and Lauren, and Lauren responded and said, there is nothing on record, and I confirmed with her later in person. They've got nothing in record saying anything as far, and I'm not saying, but there was nothing that was codified that they could find that said, hey, there was any differences or whatever else, that if it was an easement that was owned by CDD, their interpretation is they are no different than any other property owner, that they have the responsibility to cut grass, but not to replace a tree.
I understand that, but they don't even know that Spring Lake is theirs. They're just giving it to us.
Right.
So there's,
There are things as I look at the map, like Spring Lake, yeah, you can see all the little yellow stretches in here that are Croa. But I mean, on the flip side, you get an artisan where the area there from the amphitheaters you go down.
Mhm.
That is, and this one came up, whatever, 6 or 8 months ago, was that there were Croa owns the inside. We own the sidewalks and the easement outside, and the trees that were along that edge, and some of them got knocked over in the hurricane.
Mhm.
And that was where we weren't replacing it, and Crow finally said, well, why not? It's an easement no different than any other easement area where the CDDs replaced it. So,
I think the big thing is. The CDD has easements everywhere for utility purposes only. If we need to get in there and dig up a water line, we don't have to get a permit from Crow to do that. So they go on the property appraiser, everything's celebration CDDs.
well,
But
and
that doesn't mean we maintain it, we installed it. or any of
correct,
that
there
stuff.
is an easement for Disney on every corner.
Yeah,
Well, Disney's not coming in to go ahead and replace that sidewalk. Right? That's not the purpose of the easements. Right? That's not how it works.
well, no, and I'm not disagreeing with that, but and again, this isn't my opinion, this is the opinion of what I got from the conversation from Lauren was. They are interpreting the property ownership the same as any other property ownership that,
But
Yeah.
I will state that I find that from Lauren highly unprofessional. Okay, schedule a meeting, have a discussion. We need to go ahead and talk about it. You just don't say, hey, I made a final decision in an email. Screw you people. That's how I took it. And the thing is, past board presidents do not agree with her. Okay, and she's been here 3 years and now she did it on the 3rd year. I just don't like that. I think discussions are very, very important. But I think a decision was made, which was not communicated to us until it was too late to go ahead and do that.
and again, I'm not defending her. Her point was, I haven't seen anything in paper that says what the history had been. So she just looked at it. And
I
said,
would appreciate a phone
but the
call.
thing is, some of us have been here 30 years and know that.
We
history.
do know this
And
is how it is.
We're
I-
in with Crow the whole time, and
So I mean,
everyone knew about it.
I'm happy to bring it back up. I don't know, purely from a legal perspective, I'm curious, do we have any? From what you see in the CCNRs, do we have anything in there too hard say to Crow, no, this is yours? Or is this a negotiation thing?
Not in the master, but I have not looked at any neighborhood CCNRs.
They said they will find it,
Yeah,
Okay.
because I got them,
you got them all?
yes. I had to do it for the.
Of course you
charter
do, Gary.
review. I can't believe you can't get them from the county,
Oh,
but
no.
it's specifically.
Wait,
Spring Lake.
wait, Gary, come up and talk to the
Wait,
mic.
wait,
Yeah.
okay, no, I don't wanna break the rules here. We'll
But we
deal it
can-
on the
yeah,
comment period.
We can find out more and investigate all the different neighborhoods and see
Uh,
what they say, but it does make sense from a overall, if it's a park with an overall landscape plan, that the person who controlled the park would maintain it. I mean, that's a pretty
Common
standard,
sense.
yeah. So it sounds like it needs a meeting of let's go through the parks and the property and make sure we know who's doing it before budget season, so. we all
So you have to define what's a park tree, and what's a street tree, right?
Well, so it is the thing, everyone knew what it was, and we switched management company, all of a sudden, the knowledge left us.
Well, it never got,
It never got, I
In
get
defense of
it,
them, it
I,
never got
it
codified.
never, I get that.
Yeah.
But.
Let me take
For
that
me,
with
there's
you.
something about working together,
Yeah,
and
let
I
me-
wish that existed.
Let me take, and I agree with you, it should not have just been dumped, hey, we're not fixing that, let me take it with Jan and them, I am concerned in the immediate, if we're talking about replacing hurricane trees right now, because I know there's some trees that fall in this conversation. I would not want to see us just leave trees out there,
No, we already took them down.
well, but are we actually replacing some of
We're
those?
gonna have to replace them,
Okay,
but I really want to work this through, and there's two pieces to this. One is obviously what we own and what they own, and blah, 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 blah. But then the other part is, the fact that I guess they just don't want to work on tickets. And that's a big problem.
Well, can we establish as a board some guidance in this regard? One is which I believe it's our purview to look after what we consider the streetscape.
Mhm.
Right, not necessarily their, or the town, parks, but the streetscape itself, which part the street trees are. Those street trees are located in CCD property.
which is interesting though, when you say streetscape, you mean from an aesthetic perspective?
Yes, simply from aesthetics.
Which is interesting because the way I read the CCNRs for every other property, if you take Crow out of this, we don't have that authority. That comes to Crow, like the mulch rings around trees and hey, you can make a tree look like this, but not like that. We don't have that. We've never been the ones to do that.
It's our purview and we've given that authority to others to execute,
No,
right?
no,
It's our property.
that was that's 1994, there was. A letter, the agreement that went over to Crow, that they were responsible for maintaining all the easements.
Because Dave, if we can do that, I will take away the
There
mulch
wasn't-
rings tomorrow and make a motion on that, because I think they're crazy, but I've always heard that that's a Crow thing, because it's an aesthetic thing that we don't have control over. We have control over the infrastructure part of it, whether something is there or not, but not how it looks.
And so there's an area like in North Village where it's all grass, it's right past where all the playgrounds are. It's all grass, there is no sidewalks, and there's trees.
Hmm.
Okay, and that's all Croa. But you get, oh no, the trees are CCD. Now you look at that, you can see where they are.
What area are you talking about?
It's past the playgrounds. Going to the circle.
That's a ball, that's a
Well,
soccer
But
field.
what I'm trying to say is,
Yeah.
there's no sidewalk to differentiate, it's one field. That's why they considered it, that's a park.
Yeah.
Because of the trees and the grass.
Jack, can you get that over to Jan, whatever document you're referencing as far as the.
I'm sure
we
he
don't have
does,
this-
yeah, it's,
What is it?
Yeah, what that
it was in 1994, is a
Or Brenda,
letter of
if you got it.
agreement, when we first got the huge book of sign stuff, it said that the homeowner is responsible for maintaining the easement. and-
I think it all ties back
Yeah.
to the PUD. And the
The
CCNRs,
CCNRs would be the
Yeah.
ones that would
Yeah.
say that the homeowner is responsible for maintaining.
because the CCNRs wanted to come up with one of the service areas before about
That
actually
is-
just cutting the
Correct.
trees. The CCNRs, the way it's worded is the paraphrasing, the aesthetics of that will be dictated by the association. You will do it in accordance with the association's rule, not the district's rules, the association's rules.
Yeah,
But
all
you-
architectural review.
Yes,
So it
that's
is-
that's the
it
wording.
is
of
Cronin.
architectural.
Yeah, CDD has no authority, legal authority.
Jack,
for
specifically
aesthetics.
in North Village, all of that area up to the pool island has no interior sidewalks, but the CDD owns that perimeter around it. Even though there's no
There's
sidewalks.
sidewalks all the way around that whole.
No, there's some areas that don't.
No, there's
Before-
sidewalks all the way around it.
No.
Here and then up here.
Certainly where, because I walk it every day.
This is,
The first two medians don't have sidewalk.
yes,
The rest
all,
of them
the
do.
median, all the way up to here,
Keep
does
going.
not have a sidewalk.
Okay, let's go through that. Years ago, Crow owned that property. Okay, from the Celebration Avenue, along Celebration Boulevard, all the way to the intersection of East Park or Longview right there. That was all Crow. And then Pat transferred it over to CDD. Okay, those two, that part.
Because there are parts that they traded.
That we had
throughout
no
the-
reason to have it, but that was transferred over.
Passive part transfer, active city referral. Yeah.
All right, well, I will take with Jan,
Oh, yeah.
if you've got
Tell me
documents on
whatever
the
you
stuff,
have,
send it, yeah.
I don't have anything about this.
Yeah.
Alright, it's, and then I guess I will work on the GoGov side.
On the ticketing.
On the ticketing. Yep. I'll take care of that one. That is messy. Okay.
Okay.
Moving on to F, meeting start time. This is just to clarify what we talked at the workshop. Moving the start time to 5 p.m.
Amen.
Do you need a motion?
Yeah, I do need. a
No, we
motion.
did it already.
No, it was the workshop. We came in and did it.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
There we go. I was waiting for that.
You got it.
That's why he's at the end of the table. It was just this one item, by the way, just this one item. Do we have a district manager report? When I spoke to Angel, she said she might delay that. Brenda, I don't know if you have a district manager report.
I do not have anything other than I will tell you on our FEMA reimbursement claim, we have a streamlined process, which means that we can go through this faster because it's category A. We have provided all the information. I emailed the folks who hauled off our debris. I need one piece of information from them, and then we ought to be able to move forward closer toward reimbursement.
So we've, just to be clear, we've incurred all the costs, we've done all the cleanup, we've moved all the stuff, because as of a couple meetings ago, we still hadn't cleared out everything. Is
Got
everything
got
accurate?
everything cleared out, it was from the hurricane.
And then the big pile.
Okay. Actually, I was.
Yes.
They approved the bill for $17,000 for the cleanup.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and I will probably get a big report next month on that.
Can we,
Probably, and unfortunately, she's been ill and just is not even able to attend by Zoom, but if it was an emergency, she could if we needed anything. So she apologizes for not being there.
can I throw out a few things, and if nobody has the answers, just
That's fine.
take a note. Number one, the railing across from town hall, the green one, the tree went through, where are we at fixing that?
Signed that, that's. I forget what it was, $4,000 or $8,000 for that.
Okay. Cool.
Wait. Just that one?
One
One
section,
piece.
yeah. Stuff that's very expensive.
You know which one it is?
I know what you're asking. I'll email Angel and ask the question I know you're asking.
Thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
because we are planning to go ahead and extend that.
Nope,
We're not.
yes,
Next.
next.
Feel like I'm talking to my wife. All right.
Number two, and Dave, this might be for you or management, whoever, the final dig site report.
There was missing a piece that in regards to 851, I got that earlier this week.
Okay.
And I'm going through that now.
Okay, so
So
next,
next
will there be a presentation next meeting, or what should we expect?
we saw pretty much, they can be, is the bottom line.
Okay.
If we want them to go through the whole report, we can, so I'm gonna get that out soon.
If you can get it out sooner rather than later, I might answer all my questions, and I might say, hey, they don't need to, or maybe they do, or whatever else. There was, jump to so when I talked to Croa, there was, at the last meeting a month ago, there was interest from some of their board members about, hey, what's the details and all that kind of stuff, so they would, I think, be eager in reading material. Number three, we had talked at the workshop, and I don't even know if we need a motion about quotes on structural reviews for the boardwalks, or somebody already working with quotes for getting somebody in.
Well, we've got two companies involved in it right now.
Okay, so next meeting, we'll see
Yeah,
quotes you guys
Terry
are.
was working on it.
Okay.
this week.
Yeah,
I saw
there is
some
an email
emails on
that
it, yeah.
he's working on.
Okay,
Gonna probably be 6 figures plus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, so that's what we want.
number four, how are we doing on the migration to the new pond vendor?
We did meet, we went over all the, Carrie and I met with them. We went all over the issues. I think they start February first. But we did go ahead and, I think we're on a good spot. There's a lot of measurement that has to happen. There's a lot of viewership in terms of trying to look at each pond. Lake Evelyn Pond, obviously, that has to be looked at because it's not just pond, but there's some stuff going on. One of the things they did notice is that in almost all the ponds, there is and I think we have somebody. Yeah, up front. But we did have, they went ahead and noticed that a lot of the wild grass that's growing. It's present in like the majority of ponds, and that's something they have to go.
You mean it's like subsurface?
Yeah,
grass?
it's,
Okay.
you can see it, and I noticed that I know it in East Village.
I would really like to see coming into this budget season. I know we talked about whether or not it's a
Okay.
separate bond or something, but I have a feeling there is a high six-figure, seven-figure thing we're gonna be doing with ponds here.
Well, there's
Fix.
a lot of stuff that we talked about.
Yeah.
In terms of that, and then, you know, and. But that, you
Yeah.
know, we
No, I
talked
just-
about
as
maybe
far
just
as
doing a
them-
few ponds at a time. What Angel talked about in terms of grading the
Yeah.
ponds and saying, okay, let's start
Rebuilding the
targeting.
banks and stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't just, you know, clearing them out, but also the banks, so.
Well, let me ask it this way. I would like to see, and if the board's in agreement, as we are doing with the boardwalks, where we are doing a entire town assessment, I would like to see the same thing on the ponds of an entire pond and Bros.
Well, that's
Big
what,
pond.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
gonna be the next thing. Because, you know, when you're making decisions, you have to have the data in front of you.
Yeah.
So we need to know, we're doing the boardwalks, and we'll have to look at the ponds. And then do the strategy on, you know, how many are gonna be done.
So
each
the
year.
pond cleaning out piece, I could certainly see where our pond vendor would be the ones to say, hey, you need to treat.
Yes,
blah, blah, blah.
and we did talk that some areas that are definitely.
Do
gonna
we
be-
need to tap?
Water Street was one of the ones that we talked about.
But I don't know that they're the guys when you talk pond restoration and banks, I think that's more Mark, no, or is that the pond vendor?
No,
That's
that's a different topic.
And it's a different company, I believe.
Right.
But let's use the right terminology, because you're saying ponds, but ponds are part of an entire stormwater system. And there's more to the stormwater system than just ponds.
Okay.
So, Mark, when we want to evaluate the entire system, what else should we be looking?
The outfalls. Where they go to discharge of the wetlands, and I do look at all the ponds every year and look at the outfalls primarily. Make sure there's no damage to them.
When you say outfalls, you're talking like the weirs on the back, like in the back.
Yeah, the weir, some ponds don't have a weir, they'll have a pipe that goes out to. It's
Right.
out in the wetland, that
Okay.
bubbles out.
Yeah.
So yeah, ponds and the outfalls, you know, you do have underground pipes that might connect ponds, but they're underground. I don't know how you would expect those. Scuba Steve.
I would like to see a full assessment, and if we need to get a quote for that. Or multiple quotes, depending on, is it multiple companies, like we're doing with the boardwalks, I would like to see the same thing. For today's point, our entire stormwater system, is that the word you used?
Right.
Not just the schmutz at the bottom of the pond.
Correct.
So,
But it's in accordance with a permit for each of those as well, so it's.
Mhm.
Let's make sure we're also up to speed on the permit and that we comply with it. Not knowing what the permit says, usually they're pretty specific though on what the.
so is that gonna, but I'm sorry, is that gonna dictate what vendors we get? I'm not sure what that means. Or just what standards we're supposed to be maintaining, yeah.
I mean, it'll have pond depths, right, pond bottoms. Elevation
Permits,
the ERPs.
they won't specifically list the pond bottoms, you'd have to look at any exhibits that maybe came with the plans and what was proposed. Doesn't necessarily mean they dug them to that depth. I think what you'd wanna do is maybe go out and sound the ponds or probe the pond bottoms to feel the bunker accumulation of leaves down there. That might be-
Yeah, so there might be geotech involved with that, with my probes per se, and then you're looking at, if you're doing excavation work, that's not the pond level.
And
So-
the banks are the
The
biggest.
big risk.
Yeah,
Right,
the
yeah.
big issue right now that folks are looking at.
So that's what
Yeah.
I'm hearing all, what I'm trying to figure out is how do I
Who-
discern this into a plan and quote or quotes, who's doing what to move us forward here?
Well, if we're looking at the assessment for all the boardwalks,
Mhm.
we want to do an assessment for all the ponds. Okay, now we're talking some serious money.
Mhm.
Okay, so I don't think I want to do everything all at once. I'm gonna space this out to go ahead and figure this out because it seems like a lot to go in. And do.
Why don't you want to know everything all at once?
Cost. Right, like if I had my house and I'm gonna replace the AC system, I'm not gonna paint my house, put the AC system, put new wood for it, and I only have this amount of money.
Well, it only gets worse with age.
No, I'm not saying wait years, right? But to do the assessment for the boardwalks, we didn't budget that in, right? That's not in the budget.
The reserve,
It's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what you say, the estimate is 6 figures.
just for the assessment.
Just for the assessment.
We just kind of ballparking what about 165,000?
Okay. So but then what is our limit to inspect all the ponds? Because it's gonna be more than the boardwalks. Right? So are we looking at a total of $300,000-$400,000? total to do inspections? I don't know, I'm ballparking it.
Well,
I'm just saying, if we're all in agreement on that, that just seemed, we didn't. We didn't budget that much to be taken out of reserves.
What is there to inspect on the ponds, other than, like, say, East Lawn? Where you've got the pond as you come in on your right.
Mhm.
There's pipes that go under the road, underneath the houses and out there. So if those go bad, I mean, you could be looking at, what, $1 million? I mean, literally.
But if it's wrong, it's wrong, and we just need to know.
Oh, I'm saying that, but other than that, I don't know what you'd inspect on a pond. But you can't visually see,
Really, main thing
you
is the
know.
banks, you know, I know you and I have looked
Yeah,
at several
I did a
years.
survey on, from, what the scale was, 1 to 3 or 1 to 5.
Gotta rank them.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say it again, what I said at the workshop, to your point, Tom, I mean, ultimately, this is gonna drive a money conversation. There's two ways we can tackle this. We can either do this through regular assessments and a year over year, hey, we're prioritizing what we assess, or we can do it through a bond.
I know you love bonds.
No, what he's saying though is it's, and I agree with him, it's outstretching the useful life of your asset. You're talking about 100-year house in your analogy. And you wanna look at.
Well, I didn't talk about 100 year, I just talked about.
Well, that's the analogy.
We already know for past budget cycle, we are 3 to 5 years just to fix the sidewalks that are broken today.
Correct, I understand that, okay?
Yeah.
I understand that, and it's not like I don't wanna do an assessment on it. But I also don't think we can fix everything at once. Right, I think you gotta pace where you're going.
That's a
it's-
different conversation.
The
You
funding
gotta
of
know
it is
what's
a
wrong
different
first.
conversation, you gotta figure out.
Well, and Tom's concern is even the funding for from what I'm hearing, just the funding for the assessments. We could spend $200,000-300,000 just getting people assessing boardwalks, assessing ponds, all that other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am willing to pay that out or pull that out of reserves this year and say we need to do that. And if that becomes our budget cycle conversation, that over the next 12 months, the big cost we're gonna incur is all the assessments and planning that has to go into that. You got my vote.
I think it's incumbent on us to know exactly what the status is of everything.
100%.
No,
After 30 years,
I
100%.
agree with that. I'm just saying, all right, let's do it all. I'm trying to like space out the focus. Wait 1 or 2 months, we can go ahead and get the bids of that and start focusing. All right, that's great, that's in motion. Go ahead and start this, that's in motion.
But the problem is if we wait 2 months and then we start that, we're gonna miss the budget cycle. Because we're
I
starting.
think
budget
you can
discussions in the next 30 days.
anticipate this in the budget cycle.
What's that?
I think you can anticipate this cost in the budget
What
cycle.
I'm asking is, why don't we just do it now? I mean, if the question is to go to staff and say, hey, guys, in the next 30 days, I need Mark and staff to get together and say, tell me what mix of contractors and things do I need to look at in the ponds? Come back to us at the next meeting of, you need a vendor for this, you need a vendor for this, you need a vendor for this, just from an assessment perspective. And oh, by the way, we think it's gonna be $100,000 for this and 50,000 on that. Well, great. And I would say after that next meeting, my opinion, we're going out to RFP. On just the assessment things. Or we're talking about including it in the 26 budget. Either way. I don't know why
We
we're
have a workshop
waiting.
coming up February 11th.
Yes, we do have one in February 11th.
That's a budget one.
Yeah.
That's our first budget one, yeah. I don't wanna keep one guy's opinion. I don't
I'm
wanna
not
keep
trying to
kicking
kick
it
the
down.
can down the road, but I agree with Tom. Let's have a progression of things that we're getting done.
It's January. Right, and I know when the budget is coming up, but we still spend money during that budget time anyways.
Listen, we have an indication that our sidewalks are failing, we had one structural engineer go out to one piece of boardwalk and said, well, this is broken. Right?
The whole
I do not agree with that.
What happened, what did that report say?
There's one board right when the sidewalk stops and the boardwalk starts. It's screwed into there. That's bad.
That's what's bad.
There's 5 posts that are warped,
Okay,
just 6
But
by 6 posts. I'm gonna
once-
have Nashville as soon as the next day when they get done with this thing.
I got it, but he looked at one section and found a piece of the boardwalk that's bad, part of the structural integrity of the boardwalk.
No,
The first piece of wood on the boardwalk.
Well,
It's
what I'm
bolted to
extrapolating is that you
concrete.
looked at one piece and something was bad. It
We've
wasn't-
got how many miles of boardwalks?
So, yeah, you take that, and that means, that's an indication to us as a board, that maybe some of our boardwalks aren't currently up to speed.
Well, there's some that need a little bit of work, but it's not like we're not.
I mean, guys, the only thing I'm asking for next meeting is just simply for staff and Mark to get together and say, hey, line out a plan just for doing for what I would need for the assessment. looks, and we can vote on whether or not next meeting that makes sense or not, but I just want to get that part started. Is that prohibitive to staff that it's? I'm not trying to be sarcastic. Is that distracting to staff not to come up with a plan by next meeting to?
I don't think so.
Is the new pond vendor up to that yet on their part of it?
No. No,
Because I mean, the pond vendor is
They're on the hook for a bit of this.
a critical
Yes.
part of it. I mean, they've got to clear and do stuff. And I mean, that's the only thing I can think of is generally it's the pond vendor who helps work with the engineer as to structure.
And I don't know whether this is our last meeting or at the workshop, but what I have noted is that we agree that we're gonna do a full pond evaluation, stormwater system evaluation. And a boardwalk evaluation.
Right.
Why are we walking that back?
No, wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute, no, wait a minute, that's exactly what we said. What we didn't say is, let's do it all at once. I never agreed to do it all, we do have to go ahead and do it, having it, spacing it out to go ahead and.
Not-
have-
Alright, hold on.
Irrigation too, throwing irrigation.
And, oh yeah, we did have
Throw
irrigation
in
too,
irrigation.
but getting a proposal to look at it. I'm not saying fix it all at once, but we wanna know as soon as possible what is wrong with what we own. I don't understand why you wanna delay that. I
Well,
don't,
if you have the votes, go ahead and vote.
okay.
I mean, I don't waste time on that. I've done projects before, and I think when you're doing it this, I think you'll be in for a surprise, so go ahead.
Yeah, well, then.
I'd rather know about it now.
I wanna know now, we'll talk about, I understand the costs and.
See, I don't agree with, I wanna know now, because how come we didn't wanna know it in December, and I'm, you know what I'm saying?
I did.
We can't.
It's like there's a deadline that's happening right now.
Can't keep picking it.
Let's come up with some, answers.
So, all right, so what's the motion?
I would make a motion that we task staff by next meeting to come up with whatever they feel is appropriate for the entire stormwater system management.
Want a scope?
I want a scope of what vendors do we need to bring in to do a full assessment, similar to what we're doing on the boardwalks, whether it's the vendor that we've already got.
Well,
Well,
give us a narrative of the scope. And
Yes.
then what are the probable tier vendors and what do you think the approximate evaluation of that would be spitball?
Just the cost of people coming out and doing surveys.
That's it.
So as part of the underground pipes. You know, I think the pond banks, I don't want to speak for us, but I think we can tackle
Scope
that.
and visually see what needs to be there.
Bottom of the ponds, muck. For years, I've never seen any pond dredged. So we need to do that.
Although we do, Water Street near the.
Water Street.
Near the bridge. we do.
Water Street litter there.
Yeah.
And you got those
It's
meters,
almost all the way to
so,
the top.
but I'm not sure what vendor would come in, some sort of dredging company, they could come in and. Probe. And then the pipes, yeah, you could get scuba divers, but the smaller diameter pipe. Now there's a pump down the system and camera.
I didn't know if you were serious about scuba diving.
No, I was not.
I don't know what's realistic here, guys. That's what I'm asking.
So,
I don't know.
You really need to video all the pipe, if you don't think there's a problem.
No.
People usually don't video pipe. Unless there's
Unless there's an issue.
Unless there's
some
no
sort of issue.
Right. But that would be part of the scope.
What are your recommendations, and that's a rhetorical question for now, what are your recommendations coming into the next meeting of what should we be assessing? To look at the integrity of these things that we need to do major repairs or life cycle stuff. That'd be my motion.
so that's your motion.
That's my motion.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Jackson.
Jack?
Okay. There you go.
All right, so that's, anything else?
Brenda, did you get that?
Brenda?
I think I did.
That's fine.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, last thing was just how are we doing on the roof schedule of fixing?
They've been moving along the last 2 days, on that side.
Are they, do we think they'll be done by next meeting, maybe kind of sort of, or, okay,
Okay, was
The hard part was this side,
I don't know why, but
dormers.
or when the roof wasn't attached to anything?
Did they give you a quote for the insulation? Weren't we supposed to?
yeah, there's dormers on this side too. I think.
Yeah, was there?
Russ, wasn't there a quote for the insulation while they're in there?
No,
okay,
no, that was gonna be, there was another company would have to do that, and you would have to go separate on that, it was not, they were not gonna go and do that.
was this Russ's report, field report?
Yeah, so we go over to the field manager report, anything else?
Do we want to?
No, this is just from the district manager, you have other things we'll get to.
Do we want to ask staff for a quote on the insulation, as we're coming up towards the end of the roof project. We need to insulate what's up there as well.
The insulation's there.
I don't, 3/4 of the building is on the outside, basically, well, we got the mules and all that.
There is insulation there.
Angel had brought it up as a concern, that she said there were areas that were missing or
No,
things.
she just wondered what, because it's old insulation, it's like six years old.
I'm not looking to spend money more than I don't need to, I'm not an insulation guy.
Kind like that.
Yeah, that was just a question that she had, but you know what, I would ask Angel if there is a concern. I don't think there was.
Oh, it can be, with the spray on from the inside.
They would have to go in and do that.
Okay.
But I want to ask her if there's a concern. If there is, then we need to address it. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
yes, but what do you want to do?
so question, district manager questions, is that what you have?
Yeah, district manager question,
Okay.
it's really a follow-on from an
Okay.
earlier
I'll get to
comment, which is the stocking of ponds. Maybe it's a maintenance question, but don't we have our pond vendor that has the ability to stock ponds with fish? I don't remember that.
That was
We've
part of
had
the program.
pond vendors
That was
do
the thing, yes.
Can we put some fish in Lake Evelyn? We get a quote for that?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I
There
mean,
we go.
So has the district normally stocked fish and?
we
Because I don't-
stocked a few of the ponds at one time or another. Mainly with, the fish that eat the algae.
I smell an easy win. We can throw some fish in Lake Evelyn.
It seems to work sometimes and doesn't work other times.
Right,
Mhm.
depending on the chemicals they're using, but
Probably no fish in there because all the people fishing.
well,
They
I know, but
know.
there's not that many, so I'd be curious to know what an estimate is of that.
Yes, proposal,
Okay. Anything else?
not for.
Okay, and Jack, you have them.
Russ, I see there's some high poles over here parked in lot D. Are those for B? Are they for
Enterprise,
oh, that's Enterprise?
Yeah. actually, one of them's for North Village.
One's for North Village. When are we gonna get the fence fixed in North Village?
I'll have to have Todd get a hold of them again, they should have already had it done.
Mhm.
No, I'm saying they should have already had it done.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, Duke Energy got the
No, I'm talking
fence
about,
across the road.
no, I'm talking about the golf course fence.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
Sean? Okay. Field manager report. That'd be you. You kind of covered all the. Okay.
I did say some stuff for Russ, but. If I can.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I have a note here that we had broken aerators, but I don't know if that was something that was looked at by the new pond company. Did they evaluate our
I haven't heard
aerators?
this.
I haven't heard anything about it.
Where'd you hear this?
That's a note I have from earlier. I mean, I don't know, I take lots of notes. Some of
Well,
them make
hopefully
sense.
they're accurate. I mean, if you don't know about it, I
No,
didn't
I
know
thought
about it.
when we had the pond vendor interviews, I do recall somebody saying something about broken
Yeah,
areas
like
somewhere.
noted that they.
And
had
it was
broken
even the
aer-
new ones we had just installed, somebody had said.
So
they
we
thought
need,
it was
we need to
broken.
have them check on.
Just check,
Figure out which ones they're in. Okay.
all right, and how did we do with the littorals over at Aquila? Those in and everybody's
Looking pretty good.
mission complete then?
Let's see. Let me check on.
No.
Make sure 100%.
Ready to put the check mark on there.
Yeah.
I went the other day, it
You
looked
can
good,
put
but
the
I
check mark on.
lost track.
Yeah.
So I can't
Last,
get them back.
another oldie but goodie note, did we ever get a quote for the dirt path that goes from Spring Lake to the trail behind
No.
Spring Park?
We did not.
No,
For sidewalk,
Yes.
I think at one time we did.
can you check to see? For the next meeting, we can find that out. Maybe that's. something we want down here for.
$25 a square foot, figure it out. No, I'm saying.
Oh, no, I know.
Yeah, let us know.
I remember measuring it and all that stuff,
Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't send
sending it to you.
you didn't get. I got the fence, did I get the path?
I remember the fence, I don't remember the sidewalk.
I don't remember the sign.
I don't remember this.
And I think someone just put the Nix A on it, so.
I just wanted to know.
So we can get him the number. Anything else on your list? There's like 300 things on
Nah, those I'm saving for later.
there. Oh, okay.
Here.
298 left.
Any other field manager questions?
So the railing at, crossing the 851 building,
Yes.
do we still want to get a quote on that?
I don't know, Greg, you were very ambiguous and all that stuff.
Let me talk to
With a
Angel.
different type of fence?
Let me talk to Angel.
So
Angel had a plan.
there might be a plan, but the problem with having a different type of fence is that fence follows all the way to the style, goes all the way from Artisan Park, South Village.
Yep.
The
bridge by
the bridge,
417,
yeah, it's gotta be the same.
Let me talk to Angel. Angel had ideas.
Okay.
Water Street dredging, do we want to quote?
We're
the
gonna,
whole
we're
thing?
gonna need a quote.
Just the first section.
Is this a recurring thing? I thought-
No.
Never dredged it.
Okay.
No, they've never been dredged and then it started overflowing.
Is this so? This
It's
is
got about
something we
this
need
much
now?
water and then it's nothing but leaves right there where it goes underneath.
Well, I remember you guys
Celebration
had
Avenue.
rebuilt sort of the drain thing a couple years
Yeah, that
ago.
was
And now we're gonna have to, we're
Yeah.
gonna kind of sort of modify that just slightly a little bit.
Something be done now?
There's so many leaves in now.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the water's like that much below the bridge there, and I'm like, oh, that's, if it
And
rains,
it's leaves.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would get them for that part and all, and then we'll bump the board figure it out.
Either that or just get a quote for a really big shop vac.
Yeah.
A really big, with like teeth.
They started working on the planter wall down there at World Drive. They had the caps
saw
on
that.
it, they called me, and went and looked at it, and from a distance, it looked really good, and I got up there and went. You're gonna have to tear the wall down, because it's pushed
It's
in,
pushed in.
caps are nice and straight.
Well, a car hit it. And.
You talking about the lady that jumped in?
No, this is another one. So a car
Okay.
hit it one night, okay? This was before Christmas.
I'm talking the big celebration on the back or the planters?
The planters,
Oh,
the
okay.
first, where the stones are. So somebody hit it once, okay? And lo and behold. Somebody came by a few days later and hit it at the exact spot, and that's where the second one really pushed, it was already pushed in. So talk about good aim.
Okay.
So that's,
We have nothing but the best drivers in Celebration.
Yeah.
It's
It's scary around here.
it went in. And no car was seen after that, because I don't know, that impact would have. But there was no.
The license plate camera, everybody look for the hoopty that was missing two wheels in there.
Jeez. Anything else?
They should be starting your wall pretty soon, Jack.
Okay,
Well, it's not it's not his wall.
it is.
Yeah,
It's the north.
It's my wall.
The great back wall.
Great check
My statue's going there.
on the other side.
Palm trees. They're about 3/4 of the way through on that, got 2 dead ones. I had twice, someone took my papers again.
Jan took it.
Chance.
No, it's twice, one yesterday, one today, I had it sitting right here, and I told Angel and everyone, Joan, don't let anyone take it, it's fine. It had the prices of the benches.
I've heard this
On
before,
Water
but-
Street. You don't want to know.
I know.
I think there was like $6,800 for 3 benches, we've already pulled the benches up.
This was just natural wear and tear or something happened?
It's pretty much just broke,
Okay.
feet on it, one's broke here, one's broke there, so you can't,
I mean,
there's no way to fix it.
pretty old, I mean, that's.
There are, but.
So here's the dilemma. I called up Victor Stanley, it's the only company I could find that's got anything even remotely like that.
These are the ones just with the iron on.
Yeah.
And, okay.
There's no back into it.
Yeah,
It's just,
no back,
Oh, those are the ones.
The
that
little
just-
ones, though.
Yeah, tracking. Okay.
no benches. Gotta be kidding. So I'll just be around all over Celebration, seeing if I could get 3, replace them with something else. But anyway,
The iron's good, right?
he called me back, no, the iron was the problem. The
Oh,
wood was good.
okay.
Called back like 2 days later, I said, if you could just scrounge, look or whatever, because I've had stuff in the warehouse 35 years. Because I can come up with 3 benches. That's all I need. And I got the
That'd be
thing,
$1 million.
no, it's like $2,200 a bench. I can move the wood. And they're coming from, I think, Maine or something.
I mean, they're heavy metal.
Oh, yes. Now I got thinking though, all right, so the next bench that gets broke, what do we do? So they've got a total, they can manufacture a total of. I think it's 8 benches, well, I'm on paper, there was 8 or 14. Do you want me to get a couple extras?
Where else do we have this? Is it just Water
I think
Street?
it's just,
Water Street,
They're on West Park, aren't they? By the
some
North
got
Village,
the-
no, no,
some
not
got the
Village.
backs and some don't.
There is one on
Oh,
North
yeah.
Village on the other side of Acadia.
that's the one I was talking about, but there is, I think, one or two on West Park.
I mean, is it cheaper, easier just to replace with a back bench that's consistent with what we have elsewhere?
Well, I think those were designed that you could face either way, that was the.
Yeah.
That was the design of them, of those benches on Water Street.
Okay.
Because otherwise you're facing the
The
condos.
newer ones, it's called a C5 that we have, they got a C7 now. You've got the wood that's flat and then it's got both ends, it comes up about that high.
I mean, if we've
And I'm
gone
like, if I put one of them up there, it'll probably be about 5 minutes, we'll be getting a call. Oh, where did this come from? It doesn't match all the other benches.
Right.
So I'm gonna leave it up to you guys.
at $2,500 a pop, if those things have lasted 25 years, I don't know that I'd support buying 8 of them. 5 of them to go into Connex to be used 15 years from now. That makes a lot of sense to me.
How are the conditions of the other benches?
Not bad.
Anyone that we see going or as a
Well,
possibility of?
there's a possibility that one might be going. I went and checked them all.
The ends of those benches, are they reversible? In other words,
Oh, you can, well, no, but it's the feet that crack though.
yeah, but I'm saying you get the metal ends, can it be used on the other side? Is it reversible? Or is it specific to left or right?
They are.
So why don't we just get one extra bench and we're good to replace?
He's saying they won't just do one thought. I thought you said we had to do 8.
Yeah, and the legs. One leg on each bench. It's not just one leg.
They're sitting on 3 right now, but for them to do a production, they need to do more and not just one more.
Yeah.
I mean, I would support, get the 3, replace them if we have to replace them again.
I think we
Have
have
a
to,
one directional bench that's consistent with everywhere else and have it face the pond. I mean, who wants to face the condos anyway? Okay.
I think, it's a challenge because, you know, again, things age, I get that. But, you know, do we go metal, do we go different, whatever, I mean, I know people will complain, it's the aesthetics and everything, I get it. But I gotta tell you, you know, the benches we purchased to replace the big ones, those were like 23, 25, I forgot what they were,
I'll tell you-
$24 a pop, that's how much it is.
Brother, I
The
mean,
teak, the teak benches.
when I brought up 3 years ago, the idea of replacing the stuff downtown, the rocking chairs and all that. You had thought I was asking for somebody's firstborn child, and guess what? We replaced them and everybody's like, holy crap, I don't have screws going through my pants.
I know, it was bad.
So I'm not too worried about people jumping up and down on.
No, I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about like, okay, do we look, I'm not, at the minimum, we gotta do the 3. I get that. But just long-term thinking, I think we need to think about. Are we investigating alternate benches throughout town? Because again, the metal's only gonna hold up for so long. I know it's metal, but it's Florida too, right? So they're only gonna hold up so much and.
How many metal benches, whether they're the backless or backed or whatever, rough guess, what do we got, like 50?
No, not to me.
There's a lot.
There is a lot.
They're kind of scattered randomly all around town.
Probably. 40 anyway.
You know.
I agree with you, Tom. I mean, I'd like to take a look at a certain point, you just say life expectancy is end, we're just replacing all of them as opposed to ones, especially if you got a production question. I don't disagree with you.
And that way we can go ahead and say, okay, we've established maybe a new. Pattern book for some of these and say, okay, what, because again, like you said, when they stop making it.
Do it once so we get yelled at once and then just move on to something else.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? The reality of it. Anything else?
I think that's it, right?
Okay. Legal counsel, Jan, you're up.
I had a memo that I think we covered most of the items, just to kind of go through what. I've been working on this month, and then I have my sort of annual sunshine law update. There was a recent case, 2023 case, where some folks got actually put in jail for sunshine law violations. And there was a great concurring opinion that kind of was a reminder that said, you know, government officials really need to remember, even if you're at a soccer game or, you know, hanging out and make a comment, or if you have a friend who comments and tells you other board members something, that's a sunshine violation, and, you know, jail is definitely a likelihood. So.
Just soccer. My kids don't do soccer.
Sorry, education conference, a spectator
Joey,
was at a child's soccer match inside someone's office at a coffee shop or a quick text. He wrote a really good thing and we highlighted it because it's very direct and it says that government officials really need to understand how serious this is. And we have started seeing some ethical complaints floating around in Central Florida, so just be aware that it's so easy to say something that may come before a meeting or to say something to a friend who then talks to another board member. So just my annual reminder to be very careful and to not use texts because they can't be saved as public record.
Well, that's what I deal with,
Well, social media too, what's the?
Social media, we recommend do not respond because if it's a Facebook or something, you can't save the responses, so you can't save the public record. You also are communicating and it's very likely one of your board members reads it and knows your point of view. So we recommend strongly to stay off social media about anything that could come before the board. And as I,
What if we really hate the Kansas City Chiefs?
oh, Buffalo was so close.
Did we get to vote on
So
that?
close.
let's not get started there, that's a whole nother thing.
Sorry, yeah, no, that was painful. Anyway, that's it for me.
There, you know, my opinion.
Yeah, I don't have anything for Jane. Okay. Engineer report. Oh, you have one?
One note from our workshop. Are we getting that, is there a policy that's coming out of that?
On the trees, yes,
Yes.
yeah, I have the old one and I started to mark it up, but it's not done yet.
Okay,
I'll
and then,
have that for the next meeting. So that's what I-
okay, and one of the actions from that was, we had the idea, I think you had brought up the idea of having our once a quarter.
Mhm.
It sounds like something we need to act on. Is that something now? What?
I think we should add to that too, that the roots, you know, that are on the verge, we're not touching. Cause we get that asked a lot of us. Can you come out and cut the roots,
So-
stump around the roots, blah, blah, blah.
So this is complicated. But I think
Yes.
we.
It's gonna take a couple drafts.
Right, it's
Okay.
because
Yeah.
CROA writes the violation, you need to have grass there, like you can't put grass on roots.
Which I agree with.
They need to modify that, but we brought that up.
But this eliminates us with the roots at all.
You talking about as far as removing the mulch roots or?
No. So
Roots
there's
and
an oak
easement.
tree, there's roots that are coming up far. And homeowners are getting written up because there's no grass there. I'm like, well, geez, look at that, you can't, you need to change your policy. We brought this up before, but nothing happened. Anything else?
Is that actually in the code?
They need to change it. They need to
That's
change
written
it.
in the design guidelines?
It was great in 1996.
That's like.
Okay, so engineering report.
Got my monthly report, nothing to add to that.
Okay. Master planning updates.
Final report received as of this past week, and I'm going to make sure we get the final tweaks to it and then out to the board soon thereafter.
Okay. Liaisons, so Jack, or did you?
Got me already.
I'll go next. So I think we already talked about pond vendor and stuff like that. I am focusing very much with Carrie and Russ on United's plan for what we have for landscaping across the areas. They had their direction to make sure that this is not gonna be an overblown project. That these are small additions or whatever. Some areas that where bushes were, there's like cement islands, I think in North Village. We're just gonna put grass down because nothing's ever gonna grow. Really trying to be economical. A lot of the places are just missing pieces of grass and bushes. But there's enough of them where there's too many. So their plan is to go ahead and just identify, okay, this alleyway is missing these two bushes. This one is missing this grass. They're gonna check the irrigation, they're gonna do everything. And see how that goes. Initially, that stuff is probably within our budget. One of the test areas they're gonna try on the boulevard. It actually, I can verify what it is. It is when you're headed towards the high school, it's the first median as Evander starts. It's just a disastrous median. And their plan is to go ahead and pull that out, redo the soil, new chemicals and everything else, and it'll be dead for a while. and then replant the grass and see how that's working. There are a lot of replacements that'll have to get done. But this is a test to see if this is works, because we don't want to go, their plan was, we can do the whole boulevard. I'm like, I kind of want to see something work. Before we go ahead and do that, because if it's not gonna work, we're not gonna do it. But they're coming up with the estimate for that. We'll see that next month. Just off the top of my head, that's all I have.
He's.
I'm doing this, nobody said
He's
anything.
liaison with like.
Shell's not
18
gonna
different
say
organizations.
anything. Come on.
I want Shell to say something.
He didn't have anything.
He's got good
I
stuff.
don't have anything.
Well, here, I'll give you a couple updates. One, working with Angel to have a meeting with TCC to move forward the response to the memo we got from the school district, so. Maybe a week from Monday is how that's gonna happen. Fingers crossed. Secondly, had the new leadership from Mattamy reach out to me. There have been wholesale changes. Jan, I know you've got a new contact from the legal side. From a little
Yes,
while
they
ago.
have, they have new legal counsel and I say, and now Chuck Bell is in charge of this project.
Yes, so
There's
it's
a lot of.
Are you still plugged in with whatever weekly, monthly meetings they're doing?
only when I need to.
Okay.
And I brought something up and it finally came back as a response this week, so I'm gonna meet with the new land acquisition VP, all these people I know very well, don't worry. But yeah, they cleaned house. So there's only one, just Chuck is remaining from when I was there.
I realize we got our answer as far as a yard maintenance thing that we were hoping we'd get something in phase 2, and the answer was no, you got what you got behind phase 1. Is there any hope of reviving that conversation before they?
That is the topic of conversation.
Outstanding.
So
We do need that.
Yeah, but I don't. They can keep saying no, and I want to keep asking.
It's very hard.
We need that.
Anything else?
I did have a
I'm
question.
not skipping you, Shell, you had nothing, you told me already.
I just, for you, the county with the turning lane thing on the World Drive, is that an FY26 budget thing or what?
Whenever I get something, I have Angel send it out to everybody, so.
No, I see that. I just see the past couple of months have been sort of the same bumping along.
It is, they were trying to contract that work out, so it's part of.
So do they say they have the money already in a budget to do it, or we're gonna have to wait for another year? I'm not sure.
No, it appears to be budgeted. Let's see, last thing from JJ is continued talks in the next week to finalize scope and fee. But we gotta get the design.
Okay,
So,
okay.
right now it's that front design and study, and then once they get a permitted design, then they'll go into bid and try to package up as many as they can for
Okay.
cost savings.
The only other thing I'd throw out there for the county, Dave, if this is you, or maybe we don't do anything, I don't know. I know there is a social media initiative going on the cut through from the back of Island Village to not make that happen. And again, I believe half of what I see and a quarter of what I hear on social media, but there are supposedly being pitched alternatives which would involve CDD land.
It's more than the CCD land.
Oh, I know. I looked at what the map was and I just kept scrolling. I want to make sure that the county is aware that if there's going to be any serious discussion of an alternative, I don't want to find out about it after they've had meetings, because that's.
Well, it's CIFTOD, CCDD, there's, I think, 3 or 4 different entities, that have the overlap to even touch that.
Yeah.
And I know when Artisan Park was looking at possibility,
Of connecting.
it was a big fat no, and I don't think that's gonna change.
Okay, as someone in Artisan Park, I have an opinion on that.
I've heard that. But as far as the county goes, from my interactions with them, it's still plowing ahead with that Celebration Boulevard extension.
I would just suggest keeping your ear to the ground, and if it sounds like that's getting any traction of even a discussion, I want to make sure we're just
not talking.
over there. Okay, that's all I had for Mr. David. For me with Crow, I mentioned I was at their meeting. December meeting, I guess. Really, the only thing they asked me any questions about was the Dix Height report. I did go to their condo council meeting. I was expecting a lot and got absolutely nothing out of that. Everybody said, thank you for attending. I was kind of expecting some conversation on trees. Tonight they did have their first service area meeting, so Charles Richards is running that. I'll get with him afterwards. Whatever, all 12 or 15 service areas, whatever it is, they're trying to get them as a quarterly recurring thing, and I know there will be questions there from some of the service areas on maintenance stuff for us. I will certainly be at the next one and ask that they schedule it for a night other than our meeting. And there has been conversation. Charles is also the liaison with Peggy Chowdhury, the way they have it set up. And he was planning on bringing up with Peggy at his next meeting with her, the whole e-bike conversation. So he called me and said, hey, what do you know? What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. I said we would bring it up at our meeting and all that. So I will feed him back with decisions we have made here, but just know that Crow is also, even though they're not really responsible for much here, they're kind of taking a similar concern of they're catching a lot of heat rounds and okay, then what? So
Yeah.
I will feed that back to him and encourage further conversations. And like I said, I'll talk to I'll see if I can get with the principals, particularly the K principal, and just say, hey, can we have a more formal conversation here of what can you and can you not do? And that'll probably involve some folks at the district as well, just to see what they're willing to jump into, so.
All right.
Fall.
Perfect. There's only one discussion item. I think we've had 50 tonight. So at December's holiday party for staff, Susan Bona from the Town Tavern mentioned that she wanted, I get Town Tavern, I think it's the 30th anniversary? I don't know, it's a big anniversary for them, how long they've been
It'd
open.
be her 25th anniversary. She wasn't here originally.
Okay, so 25th anniversary. So what she would like to do is purchase a fountain for Lake Reinhardt. And there's a couple challenges with that. One of the challenges she wants to pay, she goes, I have no idea how much it costs. I have no idea, simple fountain, this fountain, that, I don't know. But there's a maintenance piece to that, right? That we would have to go ahead and maintain that. So, it's something where if we're interested to say, hey, that she wants to go ahead and donate that, do we want to have staff look into that? She also said, listen, I know you guys are busy. Their anniversary is in May, but it doesn't have to be by May. She said we can just announce it and it'll come up later on. She doesn't want to put pressure on us. But it was just one of those things that if we're open to that.
Will the fountain be big enough to hold Jack's statue on the top of it?
I hope it sprays enough to hide it.
I'll be spinning it out my mouth.
Have water coming out of eyes.
I listen,
He already has one of those.
I love the idea. I mean, obviously aesthetically, what does it look like and all that.
Sure,
I mean, if
I got
somebody's willing to come in and put some serious money behind it. We're just being able to ask to maintain. I assume it would be a donation to the district.
It would be a donation.
I think we need to be part of the planning process of which.
100%.
Motor
It sounds like she's
town's
asking
gonna
us
be.
to.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things is she's like, she wants something nice. But she doesn't want, all of a sudden it's pyrotechnics, and we're not Disney.
But no,
Well-
I don't want it to be.
One is, the good news is we already have electrical there from the variables are there already, right?
No, not in Lake Reinhardt.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, there is.
Should be enough.
3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, look up for the coffee cup, it's right there, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, but this electric doesn't go all the way out to the lake in the middle, does it?
Yeah,
No, it's just the air feeds.
Air-
Yeah, well, your fountain is out in the middle of the lake.
Yeah, and you run the cable out to wherever your fountain's at.
Okay.
but anyways, I mean, that's something for them to
Yeah.
look at, whether it can't be done, all that stuff.
But check with the other CDDs that do have fountains. We don't. There's,
I've installed many of them in my lifetime.
there are some good ones and some bad ones.
That I can't tell you.
Yeah,
Find the good ones.
And
yeah.
we're sure Disney's not gonna have anything to say with this, because I've heard this fountain conversation over the years.
We'll find out after we install it.
Yeah.
Fine with that.
It's just water, it's not like. But again, it's one of these things where. So are we in agreement? Do we want to at least investigate it?
Yes.
100%. Jan, do we need any do we have a guiding resolution or anything on us accepting donations? or-
We already have a donation policy,
Okay.
and we had sort of at the end, we can.
We'll need some kind of direction.
Yeah,
If you want.
I'll talk to Susan, but
What
most likely
size,
it's,
How many horsepower?
well, and it's one of these things, it's like. Good, better, best type of thing. And again, we have no idea how much these cost, right? And it's not just the cost, it's the installation and everything else, so. We'll have to, I'll talk to you about it, and I'll talk to Susan and get that.
Mark, do we need any permits or anything?
That's fine. Well, I'm
There's
gonna,
companies that install that, actually your pond companies are
Mhm.
a good resource.
is this regarding the fountain? No. Okay, well, we're gonna get.
Well, I'll
to
send
the
my image over to Russ, so.
the what?
I'll send my image over to Russ for the fountain.
I'll make sure he throws it on.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. I gotta get you a statue, I'm gonna find one. Okay. Any any updates, supervisor comments? You wanna start?
I do have one other thing. After our last meeting, you guys mentioned about the widening of 417. And I sent an email to Carrie about that because I had concern that we have a lot of noise issues over here with this toll booth.
The widening of 417.
Yes, sir.
I know they were removing the toll booth.
They're adding 2 lanes right here. in the
Yeah.
Center.
I missed that one. Sorry. Okay.
So I asked Curry to check and see if they're going to include sound barriers or walls along that stretch there because it is very noisy.
Can we, I would say, I'd be fine on behalf of the district. We send a formal request to FDOT that they do a sound study.
Well, he came back to me and said the engineering firm for Enterprise is involved in the I-4 corridor project and the tollway renovations, and they're going to talk about that sound barriers in the next planning meeting. So
I would think with the increased speed when they've added sound barriers everywhere, and I know like in North Village, you can almost look in everyone's backyard. They're gonna.
Well, and do we, I mean, I know this had come up a couple of years ago and we pointed people towards FDOT, but if they're gonna go ahead and do that study here, can we ask them to extend it? The study at least all the way along North Village and see whether or not a sound barrier study is appropriate?
CFX and FDOT and the Turnpike Authority are all doing expansions and additions to the highway system. There's a set process starting with a planning and development engineering that goes through and studies how all of that affects.
Okay.
If there's no existing structures, they don't do anything with sound studies, but if there are existing homes, then they do, they're required. It's not a request.
But I guess my question is because they're only talking about expanding lanes right, from my hearing right here, that wouldn't necessarily entail North Village as well.
well, that
It actually does.
the on ramp over there at 417 from Celebration Avenue, that goes all the way along Georgetown
Right.
in North Village. So you hear it very loud as those people are going down.
We need to make sure. We'll follow with Carrie, because if they're gonna talk about that, we need to make sure that is brought up.
Okay.
Because that's in such a weird place that it could be forgotten.
Yeah.
And that's like, I'm surprised they didn't put one already in, I mean, really,
No, and you don't ask if they're gonna do one, you ask when they're gonna.
when they're gonna.
And that's what I'm saying. Can we,
That's a good point.
can we simply request that, hey, as you're doing this, also do the study?
Okay, I mentioned that to Carrie then.
I don't have. Right. Good for the comments?
I want to hear comments from.
Yes,
Right,
yes,
Gary.
so let's,
No, he's going.
Gary.
Gary, why don't you go first and we'll go around the room.
I can finish, 3 follow-up. As chairman of the Covenants Committee, we've been wanting to update the landscape planning and design guideline for
Perfect,
3
already done.
years.
Thank you. It's a perfect, already done.
So anyway, but I was just working on it this weekend when I realized you were going to update your policy. So the guideline is all about aesthetics. You do the policy along with Pro, let's say. So I'm waiting, I'm gonna tell the committee, we're waiting until you come out with your signed policy. And then we'll take the appropriate things and take that into consideration when we write the design guideline. Probably be one of the last ones we do. We've done 10 already. We've got 26 more to go. It'll take a little bit of time. Great. Jan, when I was chairman of the Charter Review Task Force, we were given paper copies of all the service areas in Celebration because we were updating everything in the charter. And all the members on that committee got paper copies of it. I still have them. And probably Jack probably has them.
No, I don't have them anymore.
So anyway, in there, and I can only speak about Spring Lake because I bought a home there.
Okay.
It is very specific because Spring Lake are the only single family homes which the landscaping and irrigation is by contract in a service area by CROA.
Yes, yeah.
Right, so there is places where
Where CROA does have.
CROA does
Yeah,
have,
it's either,
and I've talked to the landscape contractor and he knows it, they've been correcting all the leaks and broken heads and pipes
mhm.
ever since I've been living there. Anyway,
Does Grand Manners know this?
yes.
Okay, I'm just checking.
And that's why I'm kind of surprised because.
I am
well,
too.
Here's what happened. When I did buy the house, we got a 2-page handout that covered every service area of Celebration about what the homeowner was responsible for and what CROA was responsible for. It was a condensed version of everything in 2
Okay,
pages. It was
great.
really cool. Then when Grand Manners came online, the first year, their assistant rewrote it. And I said, wait a minute, some of these aren't right. You've misconstrued it. So I've got the originals because they were given to me at closing. And you can compare that with
Yeah.
the CCRs.
Mhm.
We'll talk later.
Okay. so it's not-
Finally, I was here at the meeting when you talked about replacing the railing in front of 851 on both sides of the highway. And you remember the lady that talked about there's a drop off at
Correct.
every end. And it's still there. And you talked about we need to extend the railing to fix that.
That's the conversation. Yes.
Right. And I don't want you to forget that. 'cause
Nope.
tonight I felt like.
Nope,
No, we didn't forget it.
You know,
nope,
okay.
not forgotten.
Thank you.
Please.
Couple of things. You mentioned earlier, Tom, about, information on the bond.
Yeah.
That came from Jan's letter. So.
Correct.
The heading of Jan's letter, it says, possible issuance of tax exemption bonds for capital repairs and replacements.
Correct.
Doesn't say anything about Island Village.
Correct,
Yeah,
because that was at a workshop. Number one, that document was provided at a workshop. One board member had requested information on what can and can't be covered from bonds. We didn't know. And we asked the attorney to provide an opinion, and they did.
No,
That's all.
there wasn't a misunderstanding, it's just that there was,
Yeah.
obviously, that was why we came and listened to see what you.
Well, and it's tricky, because when we get requested from the attorney, they don't word it for like the public, they word it for the board, and so that's the,
No, that's fair enough.
that's where it gets confusing.
On that point. The guy from the bond issuance company.
Yes.
Stood here earlier, said they've been doing it since the beginning.
Mhm.
Are you guys happy that they're giving the town the best rates on their services? Because he's been doing it from the beginning and he does all the bonds. And so are you guys happy that you're getting the best service and the best rates? Because he's done all of them to date and he's intending to do all the rest of them. Just something for you all to think about.
I think that we talked about this a long time
We
ago.
talked
There's,
about this, the
there's
rates
only
are
2 companies that,
competitive,
There's
but
25.
no, there's only two that we deal with though.
Well,
There's 25 licensed in the state.
who's paying for that, Jan?
Madam, you will pay for that.
It's Madden.
Fair enough. If you guys are happy, that's fair enough. Next quick point, talk about electric bikes. On the electric bikes, the ones I think that are an issue haven't got pedals on.
That would not be a.
They haven't got pedals on. them. So there's a difference between an electric bike. My daughter walks dogs. She's got an electric bike that you've got the finger control and you have to pedal it to start with. The ones I think that are an issue haven't got pedals.
That's not electric bike, it's a moped.
No, they're electric and they run up and down behind the dog park. They've got motocross helmets on and they are electric motocross bikes. They are. And so there is a difference.
The definition in the law, what Jack was saying before, it's the speed.
Yeah.
But it's not the pedals. The class 3 of the bike is anything up to 28 miles an hour. If it goes over 28 is where it gets classified as a moped.
But doesn't that go back to the sidewalk regulations with the county where it has to be pedal operated to go on the sidewalks?
No, there's the 3 classes we're dealing with, the electric bikes. Class 1, you have to pedal in order to get the motor running. class 2, you don't have to pedal it, and it gets you up to 20 miles an hour.
But they have to have pedals.
Yeah, but you don't have to pedal it.
Yep.
Class 3, you don't have to pedal it, and it gets up to 28 miles per hour.
But also does have pedals if you want to pedal it.
Yes, but you don't have to pedal it. It's motor driven the whole way.
Okay, fair enough. On that point though, the only concern that I would have about all the conversation about electric bikes is that it makes the town a little bit hypocritical when it comes down to the regulation of electric bikes, when we've got a NEV train that runs around the town, it's got no plates on it. It's not licensed. Doesn't stop at any stop signs. I live by a stop sign, it blows through there every night.
NEV train.
The NEV
There's the
train-
Christmas train listening to
There's
the Joker
Joker.
does.
Well, the sheriff mentioned it to him, wasn't interested, and said we would try and look out for it, but kind of falls back to, if you're gonna regulate the push bikes, then you've got, what's good for one has got to be good for everybody. So if the town are offering a service to show people around, then that train needs to be conforming to the roads.
The town doesn't offer that, that's Lexington, that's privately paid for by Lexington.
But it's on the road.
But that's the county.
County road.
I don't disagree it's a county road, but what I mean is that I've got a NEV, I can't drive the NEV without a plate on it.
Right.
Because Lexington organised the train, it can ride down the road. It collapsed a couple of years ago.
Oh, I know.
And there was an accident.
My wife was behind it.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I'm just highlighting that if you're gonna do it for one, you've got to do it
And
for.
I know. Literally, my wife sat out there, watched till the sheriffs came and they were aware, and I'm not saying what's right or wrong or whatever, but. I know that was an exhaustive discussion afterwards and they're still running the trains, whatever they were told. Again, that's between the private owner and.
Yep.
Sheriff's Department on what they
And
can and can't do.
unfortunately, that's not in our regulation at all.
Yeah.
We can't regulate the road.
See, right now, it's boardwalks and sidewalks. Is what we're trying to do, and just have them read the code. I mean, we can always bring it up, but it's really, Lexington and the sheriff's department's gotta come out. I know when I moved here, God, I don't know how many years ago it was. Anyway, 2002, I can't do math. I just found it really odd that there's certain vehicles that they just go ahead and allow. I don't,
Yeah.
I'm a place where everything is regulated, and here it's like, oh, for this, we just go ahead and do it, and they're good with it.
Yeah.
So I don't have an answer for that one.
Okay, so really quickly, last point. We were at the meeting, Greg, where you went to the crowd meeting. Me and Paul sat through the whole meeting. One observation that I would make to you is that they asked you to come up and comment at the beginning. And you left. Once you left, they started talking about CCDD stuff. And so there is a need for the two boards to work together. Be careful with the conversations you don't have in the room with all of the board members, because they stabbed you in the back. We were there. But we recognise.
I will ask them, because sometimes I simply can't stay for their whole meeting.
No.
Yeah, I will ask them to do their best to make sure that stuff comes up front.
And we're gonna pull them up and say, well, why isn't someone here?
They
They
have,
should.
They have
there's an
liaison,
assigned
they're
liaison.
invited.
who came for the first meeting hasn't been sent.
Yeah, and
Don McDonald's the liaison.
yeah, and there's your problem. You have to watch, especially what you speak to him about, Greg, outside the meetings. Because he said certain things that you've said, apparently, that would get you into trouble.
Okay.
Oh, am I wrong?
Yeah, it would tell you privately, but it wasn't. And
Yeah,
Greg, what did he do?
He alleged that you violated the sunshine law.
yeah,
He's done,
Okay.
he's done that a couple of times.
and it was on camera and the tape's not there anymore.
It's not there anymore.
Yeah,
That's gonna be,
yeah, so I'm just warning you and giving you the heads up. It's really important that you guys all work together.
well, actually, just hearing that. It makes me averse
To go to the
to
meetings.
working with them, to say anything, to speak up and
If
say
that's the
anything.
problem, I
You
just
just
won't go.
Because, no, I do live here, but I'm just like, well, why would I go up there and get accused of that? I'm like, I don't even participate, right? I'll just hide over here. and deal with grass and broken pipes and a pond and, you know, it's nicer.
It's a real.
Yes, it's a real.
Yeah.
Go ahead and finish that sentence. It's a
That's
real.
that's why me and Paul especially, we dropped it. Because we recognise that you guys have got to work together. We know that over there is a shit show, putting it very plainly. Because
Get the sensors ready.
and so, and we tell them.
Delete the
Is that a violation of something? No, that's
Delete
not,
the
that's not.
video.
I tell them that, I stand up and tell them that, and, you know, they can't even walk the grass. You guys at least manage that, you know, let's get it right.
Russ,
Clap the bars.
one for us.
We mow the grass for them.
Yeah, we-
Or water the grass
Yeah.
for them, I mean.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right, yeah.
Thank you.
My next?
Yeah, you're next.
Follow that. Two things. First of all, I've never been to one of these meetings and I have to thank you all. You really do a good job and work very hard. So I have no complaints. I have two questions. First question is, I walk that boardwalk that goes to Celebration Boulevard. And there are two palm trees after the last storm that are literally gonna go right over the boardwalk. I mean, they're literally touching it. Who would I tell that to?
Well, Jan, she'll.
That guy right there.
Which boardwalk? We'll look at it tomorrow.
The high school board.
Artisan.
Well, there's three boardwalks going to the.
The long
one. You got the real long one, the middle one, and the long one.
Yeah,
Is it closer to the boulevard? or the avenue?
right, that one. I mean, they're literally hit the boardwalk, they're literally almost falling on it, two of them.
Is it in the app?
Pretty
You could do it
dangerous.
in the app and take a picture of that way it's got
Oh,
that.
that's how I'm gonna do.
That'd be wonderful, that way they
Yeah.
got.
Yes, they can pick the location exactly where it's at.
Well, they've got some palm trees where they've actually cut the boardwalk around it and stuff.
Okay, my last comment is, I had been told when I called the sheriff that CCDD is in charge of the boardwalks, Crow is in charge of everything else, the sidewalks. So if there is something in the agenda, in the statement that says that there are no electric vehicles allowed on the boardwalk except for wheelchairs, how would somebody know that if there isn't a sign?
That's not the policy though.
Well, how do you make the people aware of that? You're
It's,
saying there's
it's
no
not-
sign.
It would have to be a policy
We'd have
first,
to make
and
a
then we would
policy.
notify people. It's not a policy.
So the challenge we have, it's not a current policy,
Correct.
but whenever we go ahead and talk about this. This person over here next to me goes ahead and tells me, okay, it's great to have a policy. But how are you going to enforce it? So having a policy is worthless and toothless because we don't have enforcement capabilities.
Well,
Okay,
if you have a policy and I'm there, okay, and I'm there, and I literally stop a person, take a picture and whatever, and a kid says to me, who are you? There's no rule that I can't do this. In
Right.
other words, there is no public way that people know that you should.
well, but we can't enforce it though. We can't enforce it, and the sheriff is gonna say. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, I wasn't there to witness it. Even if you take a video picture, it's worthless to the sheriff. So we get into this infinite loop.
Down and fall and go to the
I-
hospital and then they listen.
But that's unfortunately, that's the way all the rules are set up.
It's gonna work.
And it's not, listen, I don't like it, right? But if we can't hire our own security detail or anything, we have no enforcement capabilities per what a district does.
Well, didn't the sheriff who was here before say that if you involved him and told him about it, that they would peruse it every once in a while and they would look?
But
It's only after the high school lets out, that's when, and on weekends, it's really the time. No other than that,
Is there-
Let me take that, since I'm gonna have a conversation with the principals anyway, let me have a conversation with the high school principal and see if you can do something similar to what the K-8 principal did. About putting out messaging, because you're right, most of the kids that are coming up and down that boardwalk are from the high school.
correct.
Let me see if he can put out, and again, he's gonna put out messaging, but to Tom's point, number one, it's not a rule. They are allowed to do that, whether it's smart or right or not. Right now, there is no rule saying prohibiting it. But number two, is just a practical matter of enforcement, short of putting a cop out there and having him stand on a boardwalk at $52 an hour. And
So
say,
you'd have to have multiple ones because they'll speed up right when they pass. I
For
mean,
sure.
it's.
there's just the practical side of it, of the enforcement part. I hate to say that, but that's just the reality. But I will bring it up with the school principal when I talk to him
So
about it.
what is policy K through 8? What was their policy?
Well, it's not a policy,
Yeah,
It's an education process.
It's an education process. They put out a message to parents, the K-8 did a couple days ago saying, you know, hey, please remember, be respectful, wear your helmets, sheriffs will be, and the schools have school resource officers that are assigned, their
Yeah, that's
deputies.
what I know, right?
Correct, so the SROs can go, they can enforce law no different than any other deputy, so if they see kids riding in with no helmets and that's against the law, that SRO, one guy's opinion, should be doing something about that. So that, I'll have that conversation with them.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I don't want to be the one to report, oh, look, I'm now in the emergency room report.
No, I
Yeah.
get it. It's just, there's some areas around when school lets out, I just avoid. I'm not saying that, I'm not giving you that
Right,
advice.
right.
But just for sanity's sake, I just avoid.
2:30 to what?
Except Wednesdays, Wednesdays it's early.
Wednesday.
No, the high school.
Early release.
What about the
Release
K
on
through
hours
eight?
earlier on
K
Wednesdays.
through 8, yeah, K through 8 is 4 except on Wednesday. Wednesdays are always early release.
What time is that?
1 hour earlier.
1 hour earlier.
2:30.
Yeah, 1:30.
The 2:30, that's the high school.
Okay, thank you.
That's what they'll come on the board with.
May I say something?
Please, go ahead.
First of all, thank you. Really, I can't tell you how much of a pleasure it is to sit here for, 3 hours and enjoy every minute.
That's not what you said.
I haven't enjoyed a minute yet.
I go to a meeting and after 7.5 minutes, I'm bored to death. Because they don't know how to run a business. They don't know Robert's Rules of Order. They don't know any of that stuff. You guys have done it. And I appreciate it. Tom, thank you for getting back to me. I appreciate your.
It's complicated. It's complicated, the problem is that I don't pretend to know too much.
And
I just have been around so much and read everything and trying to figure all that stuff out. But again, these guys also, I mean, it's nice to have conversations. We agree, we don't agree, we get different points of view, and I try to respect them all.
The other thing is.
I try to get Greg to speak up because he's so shy.
Jeez.
Super Bowl coming up, so I'll use that analogy. I switched sides. I'm now on your side.
Yeah.
So for whatever that's worth.
It's not the Chiefs.
We're not the Chiefs.
You may not like that.
Are you an Eagles or?
As for the bikes.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a matter when an
I
accident
know.
happens. It's gonna be a matter, I mean, not if, it's gonna be when.
And it's already happened in the different communities around us. It's people have already passed away.
I have an F driving 25 miles an hour and these bikes are passing me and giving me the finger.
They love doing that.
Yeah. Now, is there any such thing left? I know I've been out of law enforcement for a while, as a citizen's arrest?
I would avoid that.
Yeah.
I would
Because
avoid
if one of
that.
those kids runs into me and my dog when I'm in the park, it's gonna have to be a citizen's arrest.
I gotta tell you, you're gonna get yourself in
Just-
jail. They're gonna throw you in jail.
I'm gonna tell you, I think in that situation, you need to be very selfish and just think of yourself. And you're gonna have to let it go. Because, I mean, they'll find every angle to make you.
Well, that's what you're doing. They
Right.
actually run by and say, go ahead, hit me, my parents will sue you.
Let me,
After they bury you,
let me tell you.
they don't have any sense.
So let me tell you a good news story that happened this week out of all this was part of what inspired the K-8 note that went out was one of the businesses downtown had kids that were coming in that happened to be on e-bikes and were doing crazy stuff on the bikes. Separately from that, they were going into one particular business and they were regularly stealing stuff off the shelves. And the business approached somebody I know pretty well and said, hey, can you help me out? Because I know you're really well in the school and can you help me out here, figure out who these kids are? And the connection was made between the business and the SRO at the school, and the SRO looked at it and said, I know who those kids are. And they were able to go address what they needed to address out of it. So I think part of this really, and that's why I'm kind of harping on the conversation with the principals in the schools. Because the principals, the teachers, the SROs know who these kids are. So when something happens and you can show a picture and it's, hey, I can start narrowing things down, it's no guarantee. But the honest answer is, we don't have the staff to do any of that. The schools, I'm not saying it's their job to do it, but they know who these kids are.
Yeah, and they probably have a history of being in trouble anyway, so that's probably how it is. But again, I really do, I'm not kidding, my buddy will tell you, I appreciate what you guys do. I appreciate how you run your business. I know. You're not gonna agree with everything, you're not. gonna agree with
Absolutely.
everything, And.
But we're supposed to have a conversation. Right,
That
we're supposed to have a respectful conversation.
If we agreed on everything, there'd be no point of each
Right.
point. Yeah.
But we don't want to also, I like to have a board that we don't, you're not unanimous all the time, right? But then once we decided, okay, then that's, professionally, that is what we're gonna be doing, right? I mean,
It's so obvious, the professionalism. It's absolutely obvious.
I can't stand Dave.
Well, yeah, I mean-
Him in his checkered shirt, always looking better than me. I can't stand it.
I got some
Well,
signs.
again, I feel.
That's
That's
right, all right. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Yes, sir.
All right, Matt, let's cross the street. Main reason I came to see when the new pond window was supposed to start, because as of today, we still haven't received the cancellation letter. So we're still.
I will,
still scheduled
I
for
will
March.
follow up with Angel, tomorrow and find out what that is, because we went through all the stuff. A lot of stuff was already sent, so I want to see what was messed up on that.
Okay.
But if anything, we'll get that taken care of.
It's scheduled through March, everybody.
Okay, so that's a problem.
And then the other one.
Do we,
is-
I'm sorry, hold on, do we need to delay something here?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure
Yeah.
that out, have that discussion tomorrow. Because, yeah,
Do we need to delegate Tom authority to delay stuff, or is it just within the contract?
I'm
What's the contract start date?
1st of February.
1st of February, but they have not gotten their cancellation notice,
Yeah,
right? And that's 30 days,
It's
right?
a 30-day, yes.
So I will talk, if that's the case, we're gonna have to adjust.
Whatever
Yeah.
Tom and staff and
Yeah,
Jan decide on is reasonable, then.
Yes.
And then I'll,
Tom will have
and I'll
authority
staff
to
it,
do what he needs to do.
we'll figure it out tomorrow.
And the other is past due invoices.
That should have already been
That's
paid.
Tom too.
Yeah, that was.
That was
yeah,
already,
they went
already
through
paid.
this.
I'm waiting on
So
Angel, I
they
got a
paid them
couple of
one
them
by
back here.
one. And as of today, September still haven't been paid.
You need to tell me to approve them or not.
Okay.
And then I don't know if y'all are aware, but they're paying with a credit card, so we waited months past due, like 4 months past due, and then they got paid with the credit card, but we have to pay processing.
Yeah, it's a problem. I already know, I know all about this.
Do we not do wire transfers or like
Checkers.
EBT or ACH?
This is, it's a long story. I don't have time for this,
Okay.
but
You'll
You know what it is to
we're
fix it.
gonna go ahead and resolve it.
Okay.
Also, to at least be able to send an invoice for just the credit card and charges. everybody knows.
Well, and that's the thing, if we're in the position where it's supposed to just be a check or a wire transfer, whatever. And it is no charges, then I would expect them, they're gonna go and throw it back to us saying you need to pay these additional. So we'll have that discussion and figure this out. I mean, I've been involved in the emails and it said, oh, this has all been paid. We need confirmation, no, we did pay this, and then there should be references or something that we can go ahead and send.
It was $100, they only got 97. So
I
I
don't-
we need to do the right
But
thing.
sometimes she mentions withholding funds for XYZ reason. Were you ever getting a notice?
That should have already been
Yeah.
figured out.
Yeah, we got an email and she had gone through everything and
Right,
had reconciled everything.
so,
So.
I-
There's still like 22,000 past due.
is that, there's one, is it 22 straight?
So it's 2 months of maintenance, so the September one and then as of tomorrow. the
Okay.
November one.
All right, so,
Yeah.
hey, Brendan.
We can look at it real quick. That's what you mean.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Did we lose? Can you follow up with Angel on all this and then maybe arrange a meeting tomorrow with all three of us? Not a long meeting.
Of course. Yeah, if she's feeling up to it, I can do that, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I do appreciate it. Sorry for that inconvenience.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Anything else?
I move to adjourn.
Oh,
Second.
third? Thank you,
Jeff.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Brenda.
See ya.
Hey Brenda, I'll scan you the things that were handed out at the meeting.
You can take this.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Just
Maybe